5:15 a.m. The digital clock and phone screen scream in unison, shattering the early morning silence. He drags his exhausted body out of bed, eyes heavy from the previous night. Despite catching the last train home after overtime, the sun is already demanding his attention. The first task of the day is a quick scan of his phone for any system failure alerts. Finding nothing but order confirmations, he sinks back into his pillow for a final moment of rest. Meet Akihiro Meikawa, a 35-year-old systems engineer just trying to survive the corporate grind. He has got a meeting first thing, and he is already up 30 minutes ahead of schedule. The TV news talks about festive lights and winter weather, but it all feels a world away. To him, the end of the year is just another series of monotonous days to get through. The routine is a loop. Wake up, work hard, catch the last train, and eat a lonely meal in a quiet apartment. A quick glance in the mirror reveals the only changes time has brought a bit of a gut, and a habit of talking to himself make him wonder if he is just sprinting toward middle-aged mediocrity. Akihiro figures his boring life is just going to loop for the next couple decades as he heads out for another day. That is, unless something major finally happens to change things. Stepping through his front door, he immediately freezes as the world turns into a blinding white void. Finding his door has vanished into thin air, he spins around and shouts into empty space, begging for an explanation. As he demands answers, a system message pops up and grants him a sage skill for situational awareness. Our boy tries to clarify that he needs actual info, but the system just hands him a perception skill instead. Floating in the abyss, he gets hit with an acquisition skill, while a mysterious interface introduces itself as his new guide. Our boy is falling through the void, completely losing it because he is supposed to be at his corporate job. He screams into the emptiness, begging whatever is out there to just send him back to his boring reality. As the image of the city vanishes, a voice wishes him luck on his journey. He starts smelling the earth and hearing the forest, realizing the environment feels exactly like the mountains he visited with his grandpa when he was a kid. A soft voice whispers his name through the darkness. We get a flashback to young Akihiro, excited to see a wild boar caught in a trap. His grandpa keeps it real, telling him to stay back because things are about to get dangerous. The scene shifts to them grilling up the catch, and kid Akihiro is totally impressed by his grandpa's survival skills. The old man just laughs and promises that one day he will teach him everything he knows. Back in the present, Akihiro wakes up on a patch of grass, realizing that trip down memory lane was just a dream. He is still stuck in worker bee mode, stressing about a morning meeting while slowly figuring out he isn't in his apartment. He finally snaps out of his daze, realizing the forest surrounding him is massive. Reality hits that he is definitely not in the city anymore as he asks himself where he even is. He scans the horizon, but sees nothing but a wall of green. This corporate drone is definitely out of his element. As far as I can see, there's nothing but trees. Why am I in a place like this? The weight of a missed commute and a broken attendance record finally hits him. I'm already late for work. Ugh, my perfect attendance record. But that is the least of my worries now. Spotting a rocky hill nearby, he starts the rough climb to get a better view of his surroundings. Are there any shops or houses nearby? I can probably see the surroundings from that rocky area. The view from the peak leaves him speechless as he stares at the endless wilderness. What? The scale of the forest sends him into a spiral. He drops to the ground to keep from losing his mind. Wait. Let's calmly assess the situation. He forces his brain into analytical mode to prioritize his survival. Current location, probably not Japan. No signs of habitation nearby. Food and water, I need to find them immediately. A chilling realization hits as he looks deeper into the shadows of the woods. This forest, there are probably some dangerous creatures lurking about. Time to scavenge. He digs through his corporate gear and finds a lighter, a charger, and a small tool set. Not exactly an arsenal. A simple utility knife is his only hope for a weapon. He gets to work sharpening a branch. He might be just an IT guy, but a makeshift spear is better than empty hands. A sudden rustle in the grass stops him cold. Something is watching him. Before he can blink, a massive snake lunges out of the brush. This thing is way too big to be normal. He manages to pin it down but notices something weird. It looks like a green snake, but something about it is definitely off. The snake spits venom, forcing a quick reaction. He grabs a sharp pick from his kit and ends it. The massive snake twitches one last time as a mysterious light drifts out of its body. Akihiro catches his breath, wondering what kind of monster he just managed to survive. The orb sinks directly into his chest, triggering a system notification that he just absorbed a stealth skill from the snake. It looks like he actually gets loot from his kills in this world. A calm voice introduces itself as Sage, a guide meant to help him navigate this new reality. Akihiro is stunned to realize he is talking to a sentient system skill. Finally glad to have someone or something to talk to, he gives his full name. He tells the voice to just call him Akihiro and starts hoping for some real answers. The voice explains that he was granted 3 main skills upon arrival: Sage, Perception, and Acquisition. This is starting to feel exactly like an Isekai RPG. The system registers his name and asks if he has any questions. Naturally, his first priority is figuring out how these skills actually work and what they do for him. It turns out there are main skills and sub-skills that grow with experience. Stealth and acquisition are just the beginning of his new power set. Sage breaks down the stealth skill, explaining how it blocks visual awareness to let him hide. Our boy gets hyped thinking he is basically a ninja, but the vibe dies when he hears skills do not even work until level 100. This is definitely going to be a long road, just endless hills and a realization that there is no turning back. It is finally hitting him that this is not Japan anymore. Being stuck in another world is heavy, and honestly, the vibe is just pure despair. Time to lock in because survival is the only thing on the menu for the foreseeable future. Wondering if the snake is edible or just a one-way ticket to a game over, Sage tells him to quit guessing and just use perception already. The skill kicks in and scans the catch, revealing everything he needs to know. Poison-free and ready for the fire. The smell of cooking meat is a total game changer for his morale. Akihiro digs into the cooked snake and realizes it tastes just like eel. He finishes every last bite and gives a polite thanks for the meal. Our boy starts his trek through the woods with a plan to find water and a place to sleep. He barely gets moving before something on the ground catches his eye. He spots a snare trap hidden beneath the foliage. This confirms he is definitely not alone in this forest. He just hopes the locals are friendly. The thought of hostile tribes starts living rent-free in his head. Survival is a lot harder without a way to fight back, so he decides to prioritize making a weapon. Finding a river is a huge win for both water and materials. He grabs some stones and gets to work grinding and weaving vines into primitive tools. The hard work pays off as he finishes his very first stone axe. It is rough, but it gets the job done. He follows it up by sharpening a stick into a spear to round out his arsenal. Things seem to be looking up until a loud cry suddenly rings out from the trees. The cry from the forest leads him straight back to his trap. It is a massive boar, and it looks absolutely livid. He is about to back away until he spots something impossible. A girl is stuck right in the middle of the beast's path. Seeing a cute girl in the wild is a total shock, but her terrified expression snaps him back to reality. She is clearly trying to fight, but she looks way out of her league. She grips a primitive stone axe with shaking hands. Our boy knows immediately that tiny tool is not going to do a thing against that monster's hide. She lunges forward with everything she has, but the axe just bounces off. The impact sends her tumbling backward as the boar prepares to charge. Everything slows down as the beast closes in for the kill. Just before the impact, a wooden spear whistles through the air and bites deep into the boar's neck. He steps in front of her and plants his feet. There is no turning back now, so he tells her to stay behind him while he faces the monster down. Facing down a beast like this is a suicide mission, but he is already committed. He knows a normal boar is dangerous, let alone a creature of this size. There is no turning back now. The leg he hit earlier is buckled and bleeding. Since the creature's movement is slowed, he might actually have a shot. He tries to steady his breathing while staring into the eyes of the beast. One hit from those tusks and it is game over. The creature charges with everything it has, but he times the strike perfectly. He drives the spear straight into its skull and holds on as the monster thrashes. Blood sprays as the weapon bites deep. The heavy body finally hits the ground and goes still. A system message appears saying he just absorbed a bravery skill. Relief hits like a truck once he realizes he actually survived. He collapses to the ground and looks at his trembling, bruised hands. Without those crafted tools, he would be dead meat. The girl just stares at him in silence. He snaps out of it and remembers why he jumped into the fray. Realizing he just played the hero, he puts on a smile and asks if she is hurt. Akihiro wonders if there is a language barrier since the girl is just staring at him in silence. To show he is not a threat, he drops his spear and hits the dirt. He drops to one knee with both hands up to prove he is totally defenseless. She looks shocked for a moment before responding in perfect Japanese. She blushes while confirming that she is not actually hurt. Akihiro is relieved that his sage sensei skill is handling the translation. It is a win being able to communicate with the locals. After he tells her how worried he was, she gives him a bright smile. She thanks him for the save and suddenly calls him darling. Our boy is completely lost as she starts talking about a proposal. She clasps her hands together and says she happily accepts. He has no idea what just happened, but his surrender pose apparently meant something else entirely. In this country, dropping your weapons and kneeling is the ultimate sign of respect. The system drops a heavy truth bomb that stops him dead. Turns out, kneeling like that in this world is actually the ultimate marriage proposal. She is not wasting any time and immediately says yes. He just accidentally fast-tracked a relationship status change. Stuck in an unknown land with a brand new fiancé, this was definitely not part of the plan. Everything is moving way too fast as she already starts calling him darling. Akihiro realizes he is in way over his head with a commitment he did not mean to make. Just when he thought he caught a break in this new world, Akihiro managed to accidentally propose to the girl he just saved. Clueless about local traditions, our 35-year-old protagonist just speedran his way into a lifelong commitment. Lizatia is buzzing from the surprise proposal and invites him back to her village. Our boy just realized there is no going back now. Landing in a civilized area is a major win, so he decides to just roll with the situation for now. He figures he can clear up the misunderstanding once they actually get to safety. Reality hits like a truck the second she mentions her age. The math starts mathing and the realization is a total disaster. Introducing herself as Lizatia, she happily reveals that she is only a 15-year-old apprentice hunter. The age gap is a massive problem. Our boy is spiraling, terrified that he just committed a social crime by proposing to a minor. The sheer weight of the situation is too much to handle. This went from a heroic rescue to a creepy misunderstanding in record time. The massive weight finally lifts off his shoulders when he learns 15 is considered a full adult here. Looks like he dodged a major legal bullet for now. Our boy is straight up losing it on the ground, desperately shouting that he is not a pervert. Lizatia just rolls with it and politely asks for his name like nothing happened. He snaps back to politeness and introduces himself as Akihiro Meikawa. She repeats the name slowly, trying to process the unfamiliar sounds. Explaining the whole surname situation only makes it worse. Now she is convinced he is some kind of secret high-ranking noble. He tries to play it cool and tells her surnames are standard back home. He just wants her to call him Akihiro without all the extra drama. Realizing a surname is a noble privilege here, he decides to be way more careful with his words. This world's social hierarchy is no joke. Asking for no titles only makes her upgrade him to Akihiro-sama. Between her dazzling smile and his non-existent social skills, our MC is struggling. Dropping the honorifics turns out to be way more intimate than he expected. Lizatia gets flustered, explaining she is not ready for that level of closeness yet. Our boy realizes he just accidentally dug another social grave for himself. She calls him a total go-getter, taking his bluntness as a bold romantic move. Akihiro is sweating, feeling like every escape route is being cut off as the misunderstandings pile up. Time to deal with the 300-kilogram boar. Lizatia looks at the massive beast and just starts hauling it away. Akihiro can only watch in shock as she drags the heavy catch through the forest. He cannot wrap his head around how such a slender frame has so much power. Driven by curiosity, he activates his recognition skill to see what is really going on. The system window pops up and reveals her stats. Her strength level is 1.22, which explains how she is tossing around a giant boar like it weighs nothing. He asks Sage Sensei for a breakdown on what super strength actually is. It turns out to be a technique that boosts muscles using pure magical power. That answer only leads to more questions about how magic works in this world. Sage explains that magical power is just the world's raw essence converted into a usable form. Our boy is having a minor existential crisis, realizing he is stuck in a generic fantasy world. Coming from a world of science, this whole swords and sorcery vibe is a bit too much for his corporate brain to handle. The dissection process is next on the list, but Lizatia points out a pond where they could cool the meat. Akihiro decides to skip the pit stop since the sun is already dipping low and they need to make tracks. Lizatia is impressed by his survival skills and asks if his grandpa was a pro hunter. He keeps it humble, explaining he just helped out his old man back in the day and learned the ropes by watching him work. She finishes packing up her gear and gives him a bright smile. Time to get a move on and find some actual civilization before it gets dark. Turns out the nearest village is only 5 kilometers away, which is a huge relief for our lost engineer. He decides to take this chance to clear up some of the heavy stuff on his mind before they arrive. Our boy drops the age bomb, admitting he is 35 and probably ancient in her eyes. He is struggling with the fact that they are total strangers who just met. And now he is accidentally her fiancé. She completely brushes off the age gap, claiming he looks like he is only in his mid-20s anyway. Age is just a number to her, and she is not letting it stop their romantic momentum. She looks up with that pure heroine energy and drops some deep wisdom about how everyone starts as strangers anyway. You can always build a relationship from scratch. Our boy starts worrying he overstepped, but she shuts that down immediately with a massive blush. She makes it clear she is only doing this because it is him, and her standards are definitely not that low. She is all smiles as they head out, promising they will stay together for the long haul. Then she casually mentions that reverse aging is a thing in this world, leaving him floored. He hits up Sage Sensei to see if she was capping about the whole fountain of youth situation. The system confirms it is possible through drugs, high-tech gear, or even straight-up miracles. He processes the info, but one specific word catches his attention. If there are miracles, does that mean actual gods are part of the equation too? This dude is having a mini meltdown over how casually the system dropped the god bomb on him. He is currently recalculating his entire worldview while considering the perks of staying young forever. Lizatia notices him zoning out and checks in on her new fiancé. He realizes he just needs to stop overthinking, because in a world of magic and monsters, anything goes. They finally make it to civilization, and the view of Taruka village is actually pretty decent. Our boy is impressed by the scale of the place, taking in the solid stone architecture and cozy-looking houses. Lizatia offers him a place to crash since it is getting dark, but he starts panicking because his wallet is empty. She just laughs it off, reminding him that saving her life is more than enough payment. They reach her house and she calls out to her dad as they step inside. A big, rugged hunter greets them, asking how the hunt went. The dad has a serious aura that immediately puts Akihiro on edge. Lizatia starts the introductions, mentioning she has someone special for him to meet. She drops the marriage bomb right then and there, introducing Akihiro as her fiancé. The tension in the room instantly spikes to 100. Akihiro tries to play it cool with a polite greeting, but the silence is deafening. The sheer awkwardness of the situation is enough to make anyone want to disappear. The dad finally introduces himself as asked and gestures for everyone to head inside to talk. He isn't wasting any time getting to the bottom of this sudden engagement. Sweat is pouring down Akihiro's face as he realizes how suspicious he looks in this situation. He manages a polite greeting while basically preparing for his own funeral. A new face joins the party as Lizadia's mom, Tija, introduces herself. She has the same blonde hair and a much more welcoming energy than her husband. They settle in with some hot drinks to calm the mood. Akihiro takes a sip of the herbal tea and is surprised by how good it actually tastes. The pleasantries are over and Ast is ready for the facts. He asks Lizatia to explain exactly how this random guy suddenly became her future husband. Lizatia starts her dramatic retelling of the hunt gone wrong. She waves her arms around while describing how she got tossed like a rag doll by a monster. The story makes Akihiro sound like a legendary hero bursting onto the scene. Our boy is just sitting there wondering why her retelling is this chaotic. Lizatia is in full storyteller mode, painting Akihiro as some legendary hero who took down the monster with one hit. The drama hits a peak as she describes him tossing his weapon aside and kneeling before her like a knight in a romance novel. Akihiro is internally screaming at how exaggerated her story has become, especially when she claims their engagement was written in the stars. The dad is surprisingly chill about the situation, nodding along even though he thinks the marriage talk is moving at light speed. Ass takes a second to ponder the facts, wondering if saving a life is really enough ground for an instant wedding. He gives our boy a deep visual inspection and concludes that he actually seems like a worthy individual. Now the dad is doing some mental gymnastics, convincing himself that Akihiro is a high-status noble running away from a forced marriage. Akihiro realizes how insane the proposal looks when he actually thinks about it. He tries to explain his corporate job, but realizes modern IT talk is basically a foreign language here. He quickly kills the noble rumors, but the dad seems convinced he is a novelist or something. The real story comes out involving a mysterious light and a sudden trip to an enchanted forest. The parents are stunned by the teleportation talk, but the dad is more focused on the suit. He assumes that such fine clothing must belong to a wealthy merchant. Tisha geeks out over the fabric, treating it like some kind of legendary artifact she has never seen before. The mom officially respects his status as a high-tier merchant, forcing Lizadia to jump in and stop the harassment. Ast is officially sold on the prestigious merchant theory. Akihiro realizes everyone now thinks he is some legendary noble stranger. Better to be a mysterious noble than a total nobody. Since he is officially broke, he asks if he can crash there for the night. The dad is surprisingly chill and welcomes him to stay as long as he likes. He tells Lizadia to set him up in her brother's room. Leading him up the stairs, she explains her brother is currently away working in another village. She leaves him in a cozy room and promises to bring some warm water for a wash. Akihiro is relieved since he has been sweating like a waterfall all day. Dinner is on the way, even if it is just a simple meal. MC gives a sincere thank you and leaves the poor girl blushing like a tomato. Finally alone, he ponders how kind she is. He checks his hand for any marks, still trying to wrap his head around the accidental marriage offer. Staring out at the moonlit cottage, Akihiro reflected on how he'd given up on these kinds of stories long ago. Lizatia was still in high spirits nearby, humming a tune as the weight of his new reality finally settled in under the stars. Morning at the cottage, and our boy is already feeling the pressure of being a freeloading fiancé. Tishia asks if he wants to work while he enjoys a decent breakfast in some borrowed gear. He knows he cannot just sit around for free, so he asks for any job openings. Ast wastes no time and suggests his next move. The play here is to head over to the local Adventurers Guild and get registered. It turns out Ast had a bad back yesterday, which is why Lizadia was out in the woods solo. Akihiro finally realizes just how dangerous that situation was for an apprentice hunter. Lizatia admits she is still just an apprentice learning the ropes from her dad. She gets totally flustered when he tells her to be careful. Then he pivots back to the guild details. Ast breaks it down, explaining the guild is basically the village hub for work. He tells the newcomer to go sign up at the massive building in the center of town. Lizatia is ready to drop everything to be his tour guide, but he is not trying to be a distraction. He reminds her that she actually has a job to do today. She takes the hint with a little blush while Ast tells her to take it easy too. Akihiro gives a quick thanks as the morning meeting wraps up. Lizatia waves goodbye as she heads out to start her workday with her dad. Tisha cannot help but tease him about looking like a newlywed already. Our boy is practically glowing with embarrassment while she just laughs it off. Time for a quick wardrobe upgrade with some hand-me-downs from Tishia's brother. The clothes actually fit him surprisingly well. The pants are a little long, but it is a major improvement over his old business suit. With a final wave to the house, he heads off with one goal in mind. Being broke is painful, so finding a job is the top priority. The village center features a large building with a sign for the local adventurers guild. Sage comes in clutch by translating the sign into Japanese right before his eyes. He gives a quick thanks to the system and prepares to head inside. Welcome to the Adventurers Guild. Are you here to register? A cheerful receptionist greets him with a smile as he walks through the front door. Akihiro confirms he wants to sign up, so she gets ready to go over the village regulations. She explains how the rank system works, with levels ranging from 10 at the bottom to 1 at the top. Higher ranks mean better pay and access to more important jobs. Rank reflects trust rather than strength, so he will need to build credibility by finishing missions. Normally, adventurers are restricted to taking on just one job at a time. She asks if he is ready to proceed before pulling out a small needle. A tiny bit of blood is the final step to making the registration official. Pricking his finger, he applies a drop of blood to the card and watches as it starts to glow. He is stunned by how the identification tool absorbs his essence. This will be your guild card. She hands over the finished item, noting that it is directly linked to his soul and will even report his death to the guild. Registration is officially done, but the mention of a will handling service definitely kills the vibe. He plans on staying alive long enough to never need that part of the contract. Since he is a total rookie, he asks for a solid job recommendation. The receptionist points him toward a gathering request out in the fields. Out in the wild, his perception skill immediately pays off. He spots the target plant tucked away in the brush and confirms it is the requested YS grass. This job is paying double because the Alchemist Guild is in a hurry. 5 stocks for 800 war is a great deal for a beginner. High pay usually means high risk, and she warns him about the monster nests nearby. Even for a simple job, proper equipment is non-negotiable. Horned rabbits and goblins might be weak in video games, but they are still a real threat here. He prepares his borrowed gear and hopes he does not have to use it. His recognition skill turns the landscape into a cheat code by highlighting every stalk. With 100 stalks to collect, it is time to start the grind. Just 2 days ago, he was stuck at a desk grinding away on a computer. Now, he is out in the wild picking grass just to survive. Our boy catches himself wondering how the company is doing without him. As a manager with subordinates, he knows the corporate machine will probably just keep rolling. Flashbacks reveal his old life was a mess of overtime that eventually wrecked his marriage. Being too busy with work caused his relationship to slowly drift apart and fail. After the divorce finalized 2 years ago, he used work as a shield against the silence. Throwing himself into the grind was his only way to escape the crushing loneliness. Even with all that effort, nothing in his reality actually shifted. He was just another salaryman moving through a gray, unchanging world. The memory of Lizatia smiling catches him off guard while he works. Even though their engagement was an accident, the weight of her acceptance is something he never felt in his old life. He shakes his head and tries to lock in on the mission. Marriage and romance are way too complicated to deal with while he is still a rookie adventurer. Our boy finally hits the 100 stock goal and hits a victory pose. Mission accomplished. The grind is real and his back is screaming from all that hunching. He decides to take a breather before heading back to the guild. His perception skill picks up a sudden movement nearby. Something is definitely creeping through the tall grass. It is a goblin on the prowl. Akihiro stays low and hopes the monster is looking for someone else. He realizes he has to strike first or risk being spotted. Our boy starts to circle around to get the drop on his target. He lunges forward with a surprise attack and lands a clean blow. One more strike ensures the goblin stays down for good. The kill triggers his acquisition skill and transfers the goblin's spear and alertness abilities. He is getting stronger with every fight. The receptionist explains that to get paid for a goblin kill, you have to bring back the nose as proof. Staring down at the monster corpse, our boy realizes he has to get his hands dirty for that paycheck. Back at the guild, the place is dead quiet. The appraisal clerk takes the grass and goblin proof, asking him to wait while they check the quality. The total comes out to 18,000 war. Akihiro takes the receipt with a smile, happy to see the grind finally paying off. The clerk drops the coins on the counter and mentions their herb stock was running dangerously low. Those herbs are apparently used for healing salves. The guy even shows off his bandaged arm from a recent fall to prove it. Stepping outside, our MC gives himself a good stretch. Getting direct thanks for a job well done hits way different than his old corporate life. Akihiro returns to the house as the sun begins to set, finding the ladies already home. Lizatia greets him with a massive smile while Tishia looks on happily. Our MC is back and gets a warm welcome. Ast mentions they had a successful hunt and Lizadia is actually handling dinner duties, which is apparently a rare event. Ast checks in on how the work went. When he hears the total earnings from just one day of gathering and a single goblin, he is genuinely impressed. Apparently finding 20 bundles is unheard of for normal people. Our boy plays it cool with a laugh, knowing his skills are the real MVP here. Worried about his inconsistent pay, Akihiro asks if he can crash at their place until he ranks up. Ast gives him the green light without a second thought. The room is free since the brother is busy filling in for an injured hunter in another village. It sounds like he will be gone for at least another month. He formally accepts the offer to stay. Just then, Lizadia calls out that the food is finally on the table. Akihiro takes a bite and is blown away by how fluffy the meatballs are. He starts overthinking the recipe while Lizatia watches him with a huge blush, just happy he likes her cooking. Our boy does not hold back on the praise, calling her a great cook with excellent seasoning. Lizadia can barely handle the compliment and thanks him with a face as red as a tomato. Mom decides it is the perfect time for some teasing, mentioning how Liz has been extra motivated since his arrival. Lizadia immediately panics and tells her to stop, but the embarrassment is already maxed out. The dinner talk turns to local rumors about massive footprints found in the forest. Lizadia is convinced it is Bigfoot, which has our MC wondering just how weird this world can get. He reflects on how good it feels to have a family to come home to again. Even with an uncertain future and a tough road ahead, his heart feels light. Having someone to welcome him home gives him a warmth he has not felt in years. As the sun sets on the village, he sets a new goal to hit Adventurer rank 9. He is ready to give it his all and start fresh tomorrow morning. Akihiro is out in the woods behind the house putting in some serious work with a wooden sword. He is swinging it with everything he has got, trying to shake off years of corporate rust. It does not take long for him to hit his limit, and he collapses to his knees, gasping for air. He realizes his college kendo days are a distant memory, and his stamina is officially non-existent. Ast watches from the sidelines with his arms crossed, looking as serious as ever. He points out that lacking endurance is a death sentence in a real fight, and our MC can only look up in defeat. Our boy admits he is totally ashamed of letting himself go for so many years. Seeing his struggle, Ast suggests heading to the local church to pray for some divine protection to keep him safe while he trains. The idea of praying to gods that actually exist catches him off guard. It sounds like a cheat code worth checking out, so he decides to give it a shot. Lizatia pops up from around the corner, excited to hear he is interested in the local church. She confirms that everyone in the village goes there to pray, making it sound like the place to be. Fast forward a bit, and Akihiro is standing in front of a massive stone cathedral that looks way too fancy for a small village. He takes a deep breath, wondering if he is at the right place to get some holy buffs. Akihiro steps into the massive stone church and is immediately greeted by a kindly old nun. She welcomes him with a warm smile and asks what brings him to the holy grounds today. Being a complete newbie to this world's customs, he admits he is here to offer some prayers but has zero clue how it works. The sister is more than happy to help him out, giving off a gentle motherly vibe. As she leads him deeper into the building, he recalls Lizadia mentioned the church doubles as a school for local kids. It seems religion here is pretty flexible, focusing more on giving thanks to the actual living gods. The nun leaves him to his business, heading to a back room so he can have some private time with the divine. Our boy finds a spot in the center of the silent cathedral and drops to his knees to begin the ritual. Hands raised and eyes shut, he suddenly realizes he is mimicking the exact pose that got him accidentally engaged. It turns out the village's way of talking to God is identical to a marriage proposal. Just as he settles into the prayer, his internal sage system starts freaking out with a critical error message. Something unknown is trying to bridge a connection to his head, and he can feel the static through his entire body. The peaceful atmosphere is shattered by a chorus of voices laughing and calling the situation interesting. Akihiro looks around in shock as the entire room starts to vibe with some chaotic energy. Akihiro is trying to pray when a flashy guy in a top hat appears out of nowhere, sitting in midair. This new character introduces himself as Shella, the one who governs pleasure, and welcomes his guest to this world. Our MC is shocked and asks if he is actually a god. Shell strikes a pose and confirms that every living thing in this world treats him like a deity. Akihiro tries to ask about being a visitor, but the god shuts him down. He suggests our boy should probably introduce himself before asking for any more info. He drops into a deep bow and gives his full name to show some respect. Shella says he will just call him Akihiro, noting that it is a fitting name for what is coming next. This god finally explains that being a visitor means he is the first guest to ever arrive from the outside. It seems there are countless worlds existing on their own, each with their own divine rulers. Akihiro looks up in thought as he tries to process being a unique case. The high-level lore dump is starting to make his head spin and he can barely keep up with the conversation. He just laughs nervously while his brain hits a wall. Shell decides they need a common language and reaches out to download some context from our boy's brain. He hums while scanning for concepts that a former corporate worker might actually understand. He looks deep into Akihiro's mind to find a familiar metaphor for how the multiverse works. He settles on explaining their reality as a series of independent servers on a global network. Akihiro is visibly shook by the sudden shift into technical jargon. Shella clarifies that all living beings are just terminals, and that gods like him are the ones with admin privileges. The god explains that our boy somehow jumped from a closed system onto the network they manage. He finds this massive glitch in the system absolutely hilarious. Our systems engineer immediately starts wondering about the back-end data behind his arrival. He asks if there should not be a log record for a physical connection of that scale. The vibe gets serious when Shell admits the connection logs have actually been tampered with. Akihiro is stunned, asking who could possibly have the power to edit data right under a god's nose. Shell points out that since every server has a different design, someone had to build the original architecture. Akihiro realizes there might be an administrator existence that ranks even higher than the gods. Shell confirms the existence of an administrator above the gods and finds the whole situation hilarious. Akihiro immediately asks the million-dollar question about why he was dragged into this world in the first place. The god admits even they are in the dark about the administrator's motives. They tried reaching out after spotting the data tampering, but the results were basically non-existent. Shell shifts the focus to our boy's broken abilities. Apparently, his skill set is completely unique and unheard of for any normal resident of this realm. Still no word from the higher-ups. Akihiro is losing it over the fact that even the Divine Administration has garbage customer support. We get a full breakdown of his cheat codes. Sage is basically a divine voice chat. Recognition works like a web browser, and acquisition is high-level admin access for snagging new skills. Akihiro starts worrying about being a walking security risk with all his illegal software. Shella just brushes it off and gives him a warm welcome to the server regardless of the glitches. A glimmer of hope appears when the god mentions the possibility of going home. They are willing to negotiate a return trip once the administrator finally decides to pick up the phone. Shell decides it is too dangerous for a newbie to wander around without any foundational skills. He decides to grant our boy a few starter gifts to even the odds. The god gives him a final blessing and wishes him luck in this world. He is already looking forward to their next meeting. With a flash, the divine man vanishes and leaves Akihiro alone in the quiet church. His internal system finally reconnects as the critical errors resolve themselves. The notifications start flooding in as the acquisition conditions are fulfilled. He just gained access to prayer, formula control, and wind magic. It is a lot of new data to process for a regular systems engineer. He needs to sit down and organize these thoughts before his head starts spinning. While resting outside, he asks Sage for a breakdown on the new prayer skill. It turns out he can now petition the gods directly for divine revelations. He decides to give the divine hotline a test run and calls out for the gods. His soul nearly leaves his body when a familiar voice actually answers him. Our boy immediately hits the panic button and starts apologizing for calling the divine hotline by mistake. The god of abundance, Varda, basically tells him he is being boring and to call back when he actually has a problem. Our MC checks in with Sage to get the lowdown on the formula control skill. The system explains that it basically converts mana particles into magical power and then translates that energy into usable formulas. The realization that he can actually use magic has him feeling like a main character for the first time. The system explains that magical power created through formula control becomes prima materia, the raw element of magic. For our boy, wind factors are tacked on, which means he is currently limited to wind-based magic. He is slightly bummed about being a one-trick pony for now, but apparently he can just study to unlock more elements later. With magic on the table and a slight lead on how to get home, he is finally starting to feel like he belongs in this world. Our boy pumps his fist with a fresh wave of motivation. He plans to head back and look for someone who can teach him the ropes of magic. The motivation is short-lived as his 35-year-old joints immediately start screaming in protest. Walking home with a pained expression, he wishes he had been transported to this world 10 years earlier. Back at the house, the topic of magic comes up over dinner. Ast is surprised by the request, but Tisha mentions there might be a mage working at the local general store. Lizadia confirms the shop owner is actually a mage who might be down to teach him. He decides to waste no time and head there today. She wants to tag along, but our MC tells her to focus on her hunting duties with her dad first. Tisha gets a kick out of how easily he manages her daughter while Ast just keeps eating. Later at the general store, Akihiro gets straight to the point. He tells the clerk he is looking for the resident mage to learn some magic. Following the clerk's directions, he enters a back room where a stylish dude is chilling with some books. Excited by the prospect of a new student, the mage welcomes him in. He immediately notices our boy has already awakened a spell formula skill and asks where he picked that up. Our MC keeps it humble and claims it just sort of awakened on its own. He is definitely trying not to mention the gods he has on speed dial. Bastia is hyped to hear that our boy has connections with a god of spell formulas. He tells him that since he has already got the talent, The only thing left to do is practice until he has mastered the art. The stylish dude formally introduces himself as Bastia and asks for a name in return. He wants to know what attribute Akihiro is rocking, and our boy tentatively goes with Wind. Wind isn't Bastia's main specialty, but he is still down to show him the ropes. He tells our MC to watch closely as he prepares to show him how a spell is actually manifested. He starts breaking down the magical logic like a developer reciting a block of code. He defines the attribute, the pressure, and even the exact speed and coordinates for the projectile. A compact sphere of high-pressure wind begins to swirl and take shape in his palm. Akihiro is stunned to see the invisible air actually condense into a physical ball. With a final command to execute, the wind bullet streaks across the room and drills right into the bullseye. Our boy is left impressed by the sheer speed and precision of the hit. Our MC is clapping like a fanboy since he has never seen magic used with such accuracy. Bastia just gives a confident smirk, explaining that even a simple spell can knock someone flat if it lands correctly. Bastia breaks down the magical process into 4 distinct steps of mental visualization. It all starts with choosing an attribute and ends with pinpointing exactly where the magic will manifest. He adds the final step of imagining the projectile's movement. As long as the mental images are consistent, the magic will trigger the moment a command is given. The mage explains that chants are just training wheels for visualization and aren't actually necessary. Our boy nods along, realizing that magic in this world is basically just high-level mental programming. Bastia offers a hands-on test, and our boy is more than ready. He steps up to the range and locks his sights on the practice target. Starting with the wind attribute, our MC begins to define the pressure and dimensions of his spell. He meticulously calculates the cone shape and positioning right down to the millimeter. Finger gun at the ready, he sets the speed to a blistering 250 kilometers per hour and gives the final command to execute. The wind bullet drills straight into the bullseye with crushing force. Bastia is losing it over that first shot while Akihiro is slumped on the floor looking sick. It turns out dumping that much power into a beginner spell has some nasty side effects. Bastia breaks down the science, explaining that the dizziness is just mana rebounding into his head. Too much pressure during the definition phase is a recipe for a splitting headache. Even with the side effects, Bastia is still shaken by how powerful that first shot was. Akihiro just looks unsure, wondering if he is even capable of firing off a second round. Bastia reassures him that the recoil will eventually go away with better control. He drops a casual warning that a hit to the head with that kind of power would be instantly fatal. The mage explains that they are still just playing with the basic level of formulas. Naturally, our boy is already itching for more, asking about advanced multi-formulas before he can even stand up straight. Bastia agrees to show off a more complex move for future reference. Akihiro is locked in, not wanting to miss a single detail of the next demonstration. Using the earth attribute, Bastia manifests a ring of 10 small stones above his hand. He starts defining the mass and velocity for each one, turning the air into a calculated firing range. Bastia calls out the command and lets the multi-formulas fly. The target is peppered with stones in a perfect, simultaneous strike. Our boy looks stunned as Bastia explains that earth magic is his specialty. He breaks down how to control each unit independently to hit enemies from behind. The mental math of curving shots and changing behaviors starts to make Akihiro's head spin. Bastia just casually mentions how vital this is for high-level party play. Bastia gives some parting advice to focus on simple formulas and gradual control. Akihiro takes it to heart before asking about the total for the lesson. Bastia wonders what his job is, assuming he is a mercenary. Akihiro drops the news that he is just a 10th rank adventurer. Bastia refuses to take cash from a rookie and tells him to come back after he reaches 8th rank. Our boy is hyped for the free training as he heads out the door. There is no rest for the poor, even though he wants to practice his new skills. Akihiro heads back into the forest to gather more grass for some quick cash. Akihiro looks over a massive pile of weas grass, impressed by how much faster his harvesting has become. His new skills are making the grind feel like child's play. The town is crowded today as he heads to the guild to cash in his haul. The clerk is stoked with the delivery and gives him a friendly farewell after the payout. Our boy feels a heavy gaze on his back and decides to dip before any trouble starts. He figures that being the new guy in town is naturally going to turn some heads, and not always the friendly kind. Back at the house, Akihiro tries to hand over a pouch of coins to Tisha for rent. She welcomes him home with a warm smile, but he is determined to pay his fair share. Tisha tries to refuse the cash, reminding him that he is basically her future son-in-law. Lizatia hops in and insists they take it, feeling grateful for everything he has done for her since his arrival. Lizatia is hyped to hear about his magic training, while Ass notes that the weather is starting to look rough. Akihiro just keeps it moving, mentioning he is going back outside for a bit more practice. Meanwhile, Lizatia is already asking if she can go and watch the training session for herself. Tisha is still unsure about keeping the rent money and asks Ast for his take on the situation. Ast knows that earning a living in a new land is tough, but he respects the effort. Tisha is equally impressed by how earnest their guest is being. They decide that a hard worker like him deserves their full support. Tisha couldn't agree more with a smile. Lizatia watches the training from a distance before asking why he isn't using any magic. Akihiro explains that he has to be careful with mana backlash during his workout. She is still worried about him pushing himself too hard, but he promises to be careful. After a bit of back and forth, she finally accepts it with a quiet nod. Our boy starts planning his next hunt by focusing on how to disable enemies without killing them. He sets up a sturdy log to use as a test subject for his precision training. It is time for a live demo as he sets the spell coordinates and a speed of 120 kilometers per hour. He treats the magic like a software update and hits the execute button. The wind shot punches a clean hole through the wood with surprisingly little noise. He is happy with the improved recoil and decides it is time for a quick breather. The sky opens up and cuts the training session short. Back under the roof, the weight of the day finally settles in with a heavy groan. Total collapse. He is feeling every bit of his age and wondering why he did not hit the gym harder before this journey. A knock at the door breaks the silence. Lizadia pops in with a cooling poultice for his tired muscles. The relief is instant, and he can barely find the words to thank her. She starts treating his aching back while revealing that the supplies actually came from her father. It seems Ast is a big softy under that gruff hunter exterior. Even if the old man will not say it out loud, he is definitely looking out for the new guy. Our boy is genuinely touched to have found such a welcoming home. He makes a silent vow to do everything in his power to repay their kindness. He tries to laugh off his current state, but Lizatia is not letting him sell himself short. She gets serious for a second and tells him that his dedication makes him a wonderful person. Lizatia drops a compliment that hits like a truck, bringing back all those bittersweet memories of youth. This dude is practically melting from the wholesome energy. Feeling brand new after the treatment, he heads back into the wild for some more herb grinding. He is itching to test his spell control in a real combat scenario. He spots a pair of goblins having a snack in the brush. Time to see if those magic lessons actually paid off. Locked and loaded, he starts crunching the numbers for a precise wind shot, aiming to take out the target in the back before they even know he is there. Direct hit. The system confirms a successful skill grab, gifting him a level 10 alertness buff from his fallen target. Switching targets for round 2. He recalibrates the wind pressure and goes for a tactical disable right on the second goblin's knee. The shot connects and drops the monster instantly. He closes the distance to finish the job while the target is still stunned. He finishes off another target and waits for a report, but the system confirms he has already passed this level. No new skills today, since he has already maxed out his compatibility. He keeps the killing blow clean to make sure the bounty proof is intact for the guild. After a long day, he notices that his mana control is getting smoother and the backlash is non-existent. Our boy cashes in a massive 28,000 wear bounty and starts dreaming about a fresh pair of shoes. He is so hyped about the payout that he accidentally runs right into a wall of a man. This spiky-haired veteran stops him to ask if he is the rookie raking in all that Waya's grass lately. Word is traveling fast about the new gatherer in town, and it seems our MC has earned a nickname. He immediately starts sweating, thinking he is about to get checked for stepping on someone's turf. He gives a shaky nod, fully expecting this dude to start a problem. Instead, the veteran cracks up and tells him how much the high rankers appreciate the supply. Since herb prices are through the roof, his grinding is basically keeping the whole guild on its feet. The big guy gives him a friendly shoulder pat and calls him a total lifesaver before walking off. It is a major vibe shift for our guy to finally get some respect from the locals. It feels good to finally get some respect, even if the locals are a bit much to handle. Our boy just wants to live a quiet life, but someone behind him clearly has other plans. A random girl jumps out to put him on the spot about being a mage. He is left wondering who these kids even are. The pigtail girl is a straight-up mana sensor. She can see his magical flow is high quality, and immediately flags him as a caster. Starting off, we are right back in the middle of this awkward confrontation. The mana sensor is not letting him go, clocking his clean mana flow instantly while her aggressive friend wants a straight answer. Our boy hit them with the hardest decline possible and just kept walking. He is not looking for any more trouble today, but they are already begging him to stop. He tried to play off his low rank to avoid getting involved. Ari is not having it and pulls the rank card, reminding him she is a level 7 who deserves respect. Wat has had to put her friend in a literal headlock to keep things civil. She is pulling out all the stops and pleading with him to just give them a minute of his time. That aggressive energy vanished the second she felt her friend's terrifying aura in the background. She mumbled out a shaky apology for snapping at him without a real reason. Between the puppy dog eyes and the double team pleading, our boy finally folded. He agreed to hear them out just this once, mostly just to get them to stop staring at him like that. They led him straight to an armored guy named Deed, who seems way more chill. It looks like he is about to meet the rest of their party in a private room upstairs. Introductions are out of the way, but our boy is still waiting for the catch. He mentions being rank 10 while the others just want him to listen to their explanation. The armored guy drops the bomb about a massive slime terrorizing the northern forest. Akihiro is caught off guard because slimes are usually supposed to be low-level trash. This thing is apparently big enough to swallow a whole human. It is definitely not the cute mascot he was expecting to find. Their party is hitting a wall because normal swords cannot do enough damage to something that size. To make matters worse, their mage has the fire element, which is a terrible matchup for this specific monster. They are the only high-rank party in the village, so they cannot just walk away from this guild request. They are completely stuck and need a new strategy to finish the job. The pigtail girl didn't just sense mana, she clocked his exact element and top-tier control. Now they are officially begging him to bail them out of this mess. To sweeten the deal, they are offering him 70% of a 200,000 reward. They will even handle the paperwork for his rank advancement if he helps them out. Our boy is feeling the pressure and points out that a rank 10 like him has no business fighting boss monsters. He tells them straight up that there is no real benefit for him to risk his neck like this. The armored guy explains that the guild will send an auditor to oversee the special request. MC gives in and asks for the departure time, which is set for tomorrow morning. Realizing the hunt is just a day trip near the village makes him feel better about the situation. The payout is decent enough to make the risk worth it. The party leader warns that letting the slime grow will eventually wreck the local ecosystem. Thinking about how that might affect Lizatia and her family finally pushes our MC toward a decision. He agrees to give it a shot despite his lack of experience. The group is hyped and promises to keep him safe as they prepare for tomorrow. Walking home, he cannot help but feel like he just signed up for some major trouble. He is still worried that he might just be dead weight for such a high-rank party. Back at the house, Lizatia welcomes him home while Ast notices he is later than usual. Our boy starts to reply before noticing something is a bit off. Ast noticed our boy looking rough after his long day. He explained that the heavy rain made the forest trails a total mess, making it impossible to find any decent game. Even though he was exhausted, Akihiro turned down help with the butchering. He planned to sharpen his gear before dinner, knowing there was still work to be done. The dinner conversation took a sharp turn when the mention of a huge slime dropped. Tisha and Lizadia looked genuinely spooked by the news. Ast pointed out that these things usually require high-rank adventurers to handle, while slimes are not usually aggressive. Finding one deep in the woods is a major red flag. Lizatia was totally grossed out by the idea of a shapeless, squishy monster. Our MC realized that real-world slimes are definitely not the cute, droplet-shaped mascots he expected. The family worried about him taking on such a big task as a rookie. He reassured them that with 3 high-rank pros on his side, he was ready to give it his all. Ast gave him one last warning to stay safe before he headed to bed. Alone in his room, the reality of the dangerous situation finally started to sink in. The thought of that slime and the dark forest is keeping our boy wide awake. He cannot stop thinking about how terrifying this world actually is. He has already taken down 3 goblins, but the reality is starting to sink in. One wrong move and he could have been the one who did not make it back. Back in his old life, he never had to worry about literal life or death situations. Now that safety net is gone. Meeting a god does not make him immortal. He is still just a regular dude in a very dangerous place. His magic is not some overpowered cheat code. Every spell makes him feel sick, and he is not even sure if the gods are truly on his side. The weight of it all finally hits him. He is terrified. He misses the simple things like gaming and grabbing a drink after work. That boring, safe life he used to complain about is exactly what he wants back. Akihiro is straight up spiraling. The fear of death is hitting hard as he realizes this world is the real deal. A sudden touch breaks the spiral. Someone is calling his name and the darkness of his thoughts is yanked away. It is Lizadia, and the concern on her face tells the whole story. He can barely find his words as she leans over him. He tries to play it off as just being lost in thought. She admits she was terrified something was wrong because he would not answer her. The realization of the hand-holding sets in and things get awkward fast. She pulls away as the relief of his safety takes over. She confesses that his energy has been heavy ever since he got home. Seeing him in pain made her reach out without even thinking. She finishes by apologizing for barging into his room without an invite. Our boy finally snaps out of his funk with a genuine smile. He thanks her for clearing the gloom and admits he was just trapped in his own head. Lizatia is 100% supportive. Even though she is worried, she promises to have a legendary dinner waiting and tells him to crush it out there. They share a quick laugh as he plays off the drama to keep the vibe light. Deep down, he knows that staying stuck in that dark spiral would have ruined his sleep. Thinking about the family gives him a warm feeling. There is a new sense of peace in knowing he actually has a home to return to and people who care. That simple realization puts his mind at ease. He tells her he is already hyped for tomorrow's menu while she keeps her cooking plans a mystery. Next morning, our MC gets a briefing over a drink. Ast explains that while wolf packs are usually a headache, they should be no match for the higher rank party he is joining. Time to head out. Ass drops some final advice to stay sharp and avoid the deep forest if he wants to keep things low risk. Lizatia hands over a lunch pack and begs him to be careful out there. Our boy drops the first name basis on her and she is absolutely stunned he called her Liz. She admits that only her close friends get to use that nickname. He decides to close the gap and tells her to start calling him Hero. The request sends her into a total blushing meltdown. She can barely stutter out a response while he tries to tell her she does not have to force it. Just as he is leaving, she finally screams out a goodbye to Hero. That one simple word clears his head and makes all his anxiety vanish. The fear of the unknown is still there, but his mindset is totally different now. He charges forward with a new sense of purpose. Clenching his fist, he resolves to make a life in this world. That giant slime is about to find out exactly how fired up he really is. A friendly soldier greets him as he arrives at the meeting spot. Right on cue, the system dings to let him know he just unlocked a bravery buff. A new face joins the squad as the armored warrior Hardis introduces himself as the primary escort for the day. With the team finally at full strength, the party gets the green light to officially begin the mission. Destination, the Northern Forest. This is the moment of truth to see if that solo training actually prepared our MC for the dangers waiting in the deep woods. The squad officially enters the danger zone. Hardis warns everyone to keep their heads on a swivel because monster spawns are about to spike from here on out. Our boy wonders if that massive slime is still camping in the same spot. Deed explains that once those things get big enough, they basically become stationary furniture. Time for a gear check. Ari spots Akihiro's wristwatch and thinks it is some high-level magic item, but he just plays it cool and calls it a simple compass. Hardis is genuinely impressed by the tech since he usually just vibe checks the sun to find his way. MC cannot help but smile, thinking about how his grandpa used the same old-school methods. Peace and quiet, not today. A pack of goblins lunges from the bushes, but Hardis is already moving, turning the first one into a red mist before anyone can even blink. Seeing a rank 7 pro in action is a total reality check for Akihiro. The speed of that strike was on a completely different level. Subjugation complete. Eri bags the loot while Hardis notes that the mana in the air is starting to get thick. Akihiro stops in his tracks as the forest starts giving off some seriously bad vibes. The darkness here feels heavy and ominous. In an instant, the squad is surrounded by a massive pack of wolves. Hardis realizes they are trapped on all sides. Hardis indeed prep for the fight while Wadis begins a quiet chant. Akihiro watches the mana gather, curious about the technique. The entire pack drops in a single moment. Our boy is stunned by the speed, asking what kind of spell she just used. Wadis drops a casual bombshell by explaining she compressed fireballs into their lungs. Burning them from the inside keeps the pelts perfect. Talk about being ruthless. This girl looks completely innocent, but operates like a seasoned pro with zero hesitation. Hardis decides they will grab the pelts on the way back. Skinning this many wolves is going to be a lot of work. Akihiro checks the clock and notes they have about 2 more hours of trekking before they reach their goal. His companion smiles and keeps the pace steady. The officer asks if he is finally starting to relax a little. Akihiro laughs it off, realizing his rookie nerves are totally on display for everyone to see. The staff member appreciates him joining the mission despite his low rank. Our boy starts wondering if he will actually be useful or just end up as deadweight for the pros. He suddenly realizes his new buddy has the ultimate mob face. This dude is so generic that Akihiro probably won't even be able to recall his features in 5 minutes. They both agree that finding a party with such a perfect balance of roles is a huge luxury. It makes the dangerous journey feel a lot more manageable. It turns out the main trio are all childhood friends from the same village. That kind of natural chemistry is exactly why they operate like a well-oiled machine. Akihiro starts spiraling when he realizes Deed is living every protagonist's dream with 2 beautiful childhood friends. He is low-key dying of jealousy and wonders what kind of god-tier karma the guy has. The guild officer is making everyone look like amateurs with his insane combat efficiency. Akihiro is officially taking back everything he said about the guy having a generic face because this man is a machine. With the path clear, the squad keeps their eyes on the prize and pushes deeper into the forest. Akihiro locks in and tells himself there is no turning back now. He is absolutely determined to pull his weight and get some results before the mission is over. They finally reach the target area and find a massive gelatinous dome just sitting there. The reports were not kidding about the location or the sheer size of this thing. Standing right in front of it is a whole different vibe. Our boy estimates it is about 3 meters tall, and the way it hums and vibrates makes it clear this is not some harmless mascot. The officer breaks down the anatomy of the beast while Akihiro spots the core suspended in the middle. He notes that the heart of the monster looks suspiciously like a traditional Japanese. Success depends on either cracking that core or just peeling away enough of the slime to disable it. It sounds simple enough, but getting close to something that big is a huge risk. Before they start the raid, Akihiro wants to do a quick stress test. He asks Hardis to throw a stone at the slime just to see how fast it can actually move. The rock hits and the slime actually reacts. It shifts around with a low hum before dropping right back into its starting spot like nothing happened. The officer tells him it is fine to wreck the core as long as they can still haul the remains back. Akihiro asks if they need the jelly too, but apparently, that part is just garbage. He decides to start by blasting the outer jelly layer to see what happens. Looking at the size of this thing, he is low-key worried he might just pass out from the mana drain. Time to lock in. Akihiro tells the squad he will give it a shot with a moderate power test, while Hardis gives him a vote of confidence. He steps up and takes aim, but the pressure of everyone watching is getting to him. His hands are shaking like crazy, which is definitely not the cool hero vibe he was going for. He forces himself to snap out of it. These guys have been carrying him the whole way, and he is not about to let them down when it finally counts. The engineering brain kicks into high gear. He starts calculating the exact parameters, imagining a massive sphere of wind compressed into a tiny high-pressure point right at his fingertip. MC sets the projectile velocity to 700 clicks, deciding half a bullet speed is enough for a test run. He aims just to the right of the core and hits the execute command. The compressed air rips through the target with a wet crunch. Slime chunks rain down from the sky, but the core stays in one piece. Our boy realizes the outer jelly was way tougher than he predicted. The squad is hyped, cheering because the monster finally stopped moving. Deed can't believe he pulled it off on his very first attempt. He manages a weak thumbs up before the magic tax hits. 1 second he's the hero and the next he's losing his lunch in the bushes. He's dealing with a massive mana hangover while the censor girl tries to comfort him. This headache is officially the worst part of the job. Still a dev at heart, he tries to debug the spell while he recovers. He needs to tweak the compression or the speed before the next round. The squad gathers around the aftermath of the fight. The monster is shredded, leaving only a giant core sitting in a puddle of slime. Hardis thinks the reward for this mission is a joke, considering the risk, but the guild officer is just happy to see a specimen this large. Hardis tells the guild officer to make sure he keeps his promise about the next gig. The officer just laughs it off, promising to keep it in mind for their next job. Our boy walks up to the prize, finally seeing the core up close. Hardis admits the monster was a beast, while Ari checks in to see if he has recovered from the mana drain. Akihiro apologizes for the scare, admitting that mana hangover was the worst one yet. Hardis isn't even mad though, he's just stunned that a rookie could pack that much heat. The whole squad is in high spirits, praising him for ending the fight in a single shot. Hardis and Ari thank him for pushing past his limits while Wadis admits, she's stunned, he pulled it off. Akihiro tries to play it cool, explaining he's still figuring out his own power since he's new to the magic game. Suddenly the vibe shifts as Ari senses something dangerous approaching. The guild officer realizes the party is over and shouts a warning. Ari's panicking now, sensing something enormous heading straight for them. She can't tell what it is, but whatever's coming is big and it's coming fast. The guild officer panics and orders an immediate retreat. Something huge is crashing through the brush, and he realizes he totally messed up by letting his guard down. Hardis steps up to cover the rear with Ari while the officer tells everyone else to run for it. Wadis grabs the core as the squad splits up to escape the incoming threat. Our boy is practically frozen by the sheer pressure of whatever is coming. A roar echoes through the trees, and it is way too deep and terrifying to belong to a normal wolf. Ari screams a final warning as the monster closes the gap. This thing is moving at high speed, and it is officially right on top of them. Those aren't just standard forest puppies howling in the distance. The guild officer realizes they're being tracked by a pack of over 10 monsters. Our boy is gassed, realizing his legs aren't built for a high-speed forest retreat. A sense of being an anchor for the rest of the squad starts to weigh him down. Panicking as the gap closes, he suggests they ditch the track and field routine for a treehouse defense. He knows he can't win a foot race, but he can win a shooting gallery from above. He pitches the idea of resting up to spam his wind magic while the others weigh the risks. The possibility of success rests on finding a sturdy enough branch. The officer makes the executive call to go with the plan before they get cornered. No more running. It's time to take the high ground. Once they scramble up the trunks, Akihiro starts regretting his sedentary life as a systems engineer. He promises himself to start a jogging routine if his legs ever stop shaking. The peace doesn't last long. Ari screams out that the threat is here. The forest shadows start moving, revealing massive black wolves that make normal dogs look like chew toys. Akihiro is losing it because these things are massive compared to normal wolves. The officer panics and asks Hardis what exactly they are looking at. Hardis admits he has never seen anything like this reported in the area. Akihiro realizes it is time to use his recognition skill to get some real data. His skill confirms these are magic-infused wolves that have evolved into full-on monsters. Their hides are way tougher than any normal predator. The situation goes from bad to worse as Ari counts nearly 20 wolves when a normal pack should only be 10. To top it off, they are still howling to call even more reinforcements. Everyone turns to Wadis to see what she can do. She locks in with a cold stare and gives the order to execute her move. She rains down magic from the branches, tagging the wolves below. Despite the direct hits, the beasts only seem to be getting annoyed rather than going down for the count. The team realizes their initial assault was a dud as the fire magic only left surface-level burns. The officer explains they need the others to force the beast open before any lethal internal damage can be dealt. Seeing the wolves trapped on the ground gives him a small sigh of relief. Since they cannot reach him up in the branches, he decides it is time to personally step up and test his own magic. He begins crunching the numbers for a hyper-precise wind strike. By compressing air into a tiny needle at his fingertip, he creates a specialized high-pressure shot designed for maximum penetration. He locks his sights on the target and prepares to let it rip. With his calculations set, he knows there's zero chance for the beast to dodge this shot. The wind bullet lands a direct hit and takes a wolf down instantly. While our boy is busy celebrating his first successful kill, the officer realizes the situation is about to get much worse. The victory is short-lived as more glowing eyes emerge from the deep shadows. The pack is actually growing, and they are starting to completely surround the area. The officer presses him on how many times he can spam that shot before running dry. If they do not start clearing the mob now, the noise will just keep ringing the dinner bell for every predator in the forest. The wolves are closing in, and taking them out one by one is no longer an option. Our boy realizes he is forced to wing a multicast spell right here on the spot. He recalls his training, knowing that hitting the whole pack is the only way to survive this mess. Suddenly, a system notice pops up right in his face. It is a straight-up warning that excessive magic use could lead to some critical side effects or even serious harm. Akihiro is genuinely rattled by the vague threat of serious harm. Scholar Sensei finally chimes in with a warning that feels way more ominous than helpful. Desperation takes over as the pack reaches striking distance. With no other choice left, he decides to rely on a prayer, hoping for a miracle to bail him out. He practically begs for any kind of help before these wolves make him their dinner. A new voice cuts through the static, identifying as Electoa, the governor of spellcasting. The connection is established instantly, catching him completely off guard. Electoa breaks down the grim reality of pushing his limits. Turns out that nausea was just the starting symptom of his brain getting intoxicated, and going further could cause a cerebral hemorrhage. The god offers to handle the control for this high-stakes spell, though it is going to leave him unconscious for days. Akihiro doesn't hesitate and accepts the help, thanking him as they prepare for the launch. The threat of permanent brain damage is off the table for now. Our boy locks in, ready to attempt a multicasting technique that should be way above his pay grade. Scanning the field, he counts about 30 shadows creeping through the brush. The howling has stopped, which means the entire pack is finally out in the open. He gives Hardis the heads up that he is about to go all out and will probably pass out immediately after. Hardis stays ready, promising to handle the cleanup once Akihiro drops. Following the god's instructions, he starts projecting mental reticles onto every single target. It is a high-tech approach to magic that looks more like a gaming UI than a fantasy world. The count keeps climbing until 34 individual targets are locked into his targeting system. Raising his hand, he starts crunching the physics for a precision wind strike. He sets the dimensions and velocity for 34 individual shots, preparing to unleash them all at once. Locking eyes on his goal, the memories of home push him to finally pull the trigger. He screams for the system to execute the strike. The result is immediate and messy. Dozens of wolf heads burst open at once, turning the entire pack into a graveyard in seconds. The party is absolutely stunned by the sudden massacre. While they try to process the power they just saw, Akihiro is barely holding it together as his energy hits zero. Seeing the motionless pack brings a huge wave of relief. He finally feels safe enough to go home, but his body has other plans and starts shutting down. Everything fades to black as he tries to apologize for passing out. In the middle of the void, a mysterious figure is waiting for him with a smile. Meeting face to face in this empty dimension, the dapper entity introduces himself as Alectoa, finally putting a face to the voice in his head. After a quick thank you, the conversation shifts to the weirdly familiar fashion. Alectoa reveals he dressed up in a tailcoat specifically to make his guest feel more at home. Our boy tries to talk about his home culture, but the god just calls it a hassle to wear. Since the small talk failed, he finally asks where they actually are. Alectoa explains they are in the space between reality and dreams. Since Akihiro is stuck in a coma, they have all the time in the world for a deep talk. It is awkward talking to a deity, especially when he starts roasting his coworkers. Apparently, the god of pleasure won't stop bragging about his own meetings with visitors. It turns out Earth is the most popular piece of content for the higher-ups. The view count for his homeworld is reaching some terrifying numbers. The secret is finally out. This planet is a copy of Earth, which is why even the genetics are fundamentally the same. Everything starts making sense. The civilizations look similar because they were both built from the same blueprint. Every planet has its own assigned theme. While Earth was built for pure technological development, this world was designed just to let people live as happily as possible. Our boy wonders if a world without war is basically a utopia. The god explains that they specifically decided to keep conflict to a minimum during their divine planning sessions. It turns out the Celestial managers are huge fans of Japanese culture. They spend their time hooked on Japanese games, anime, and manga. This god has a secret addiction to potato chips. He copies every new flavor that Earth releases just so he can snack on them. Akihiro just got a new job as the official potato chip ambassador. Since the locals think the plants are poison, he has to spread the word about the glory of snacks. The meeting ends abruptly as the god tells him it is time to return. Akihiro starts stressing about time dilation, worried he will wake up decades into the future. A stylish farewell from the man in the top hat. He tips his cap and sends our MC back with a final blessing of luck. Everything starts to fade as reality finally kicks back in. His only hope is that he is heading back to where Liz is waiting. The bright light hitting his eyes confirms one thing. He is finally back in his own room. His mind immediately goes to his team, hoping they all made it back in one piece. That meeting with the god in the top hat was way too vivid to be a dream. Our boy slowly sits up, trying to shake off the mental fog from his trip to the divine realm. He spots Lizadia knocked out in a chair right next to him. It is obvious she has not left his side since they brought him home. He gives her a soft nudge to let her know he is finally awake. He accidentally makes a thud while trying to move, but Lizadia does not even flinch. She is sleeping so deeply that even a loud crash cannot wake her up. It is actually kind of impressive. Aside from some minor scrapes from being carried back, his body feels surprisingly good. He plants his feet on the wooden floor and tests his strength. He is officially back on his feet. He tries waking her up one more time and her eyes slowly flutter open. The moment she realizes he is actually looking back at her, her face turns bright red. He gives her a warm smile and thanks her for looking after him. Lizatia does not even wait for a full sentence before she launches herself at him. She wraps her arms around him in a tight hug, repeating his name over and over as if she still cannot believe he is real. She is gripping him like her life depends on it while hysterical crying fills the room. He is struggling to even get a breath in under the pressure of that hug. The sounds of her mini panic attack echo right out of the building. Talking her through some basic breathing exercises is the only way to get the waterworks to stop. Once things settle down, she reveals the heavy reality of the situation. He has been missing in action for 3 whole days. Apparently, the squad had to haul his unconscious body all the way back to town. The local professionals confirmed it was a classic case of mana overdose. The dark thought of him never opening his eyes again was eating her alive. Seeing him awake and talking is the only thing that could fix the vibe. A heavy wave of guilt hits as he realizes how much stress he put her through. He is just grateful she was there waiting when he finally came to. All the tension from the forest mission finally melts away with a simple greeting. Coming back to this house made every risk he took worth it. Tisha serves up a bowl of steaming soup to help him recover. She says he needs something gentle on his stomach, since he just woke up. Akihiro thanks her for the meal as she explains the local guild kept him fed while he was out. Between bites, he wonders how much that liquid nourishment is going to cost him later. Ass tells him to take it easy while the squad heads out to hunt. Lizadia is dying to stay by his side, but he promises to rest for now. The moment he mentions reporting to the guild later, Lizadia starts stressing. She begs him to wait until tomorrow so she can go with him. He reassures her that a quick walk through the village is no big deal. They trade some cute reminders to stay safe before she finally heads out. Gearing up for the short trip, he promises to just check in and come straight back. He really appreciates how much she cares about his well-being. As the house fades into the background, his mind starts racing. He needs to find out exactly what happened in the forest after he blacked out. Walking through the village, our boy decides to pull up his status window before reaching the guild. He needs to see exactly what he gained from that life or death encounter. A massive skill list pings into existence, showing some decent progress on his stats. Most notable is his attribute control, which finally seems to be hitting some respectable numbers. He notices a brand new water attribute skill and realizes the notification must have glitched while his brain was melting from mana exhaustion. The system confirms things were pretty messy back then, explaining why he missed the level up alert entirely. As he arrives, a familiar face from the mission practically teleports in to give him a deep bow. This dude is beyond grateful for the assist and immediately checks if our MC is finally back to normal. Akihiro is a bit thrown off by the high energy and tries to play it cool. He admits he was mostly dead weight on the return trip, but the guy is not hearing any of it. The guy laughs it off, explaining how he used his vigilance skill to speedrun the trip home without any monster encounters. Before they can finish the chat, someone else spots him and shouts his name. Deed and Ari make their entrance, looking relieved to see our boy on his feet. Deed is grinning from ear to ear, repeatedly thanking him for basically saving the whole squad during the hunt. Hardest jokes about how heavy our boy was while they dragged his passed-out body back through the woods. Akihiro just takes the loss and thanks them for not dumping him in a bush. Even the usually aggressive Ari softens up for a second to drop a rare thank you. Our MC is stunned because he definitely did not have her being nice on his bingo card. The squad leader mentions they actually made a killing on this mission. Akihiro hears the words extra income and his ears immediately perk up. The guild officer steps in to break down the massive pile of coins waiting for them. It turns out their little forest encounter was worth a lot more than just survival. Apparently, the monsters they fought were actually a rare new species called dire wolves. Since winter is coming and the demand for fur is high, the reward hit a massive 1 million wall. Our boy is doing the math and realizes that amount is basically a whole year of income for a local farmer. He knew the job was dangerous, but he did not realize it was jackpot dangerous. The auditor confirms the reward is divided equally among the 4 party members. That puts 250,000 wall directly into Akihiro's pocket for a single day of work. The guild officer hands over a fat sack of 390,000 wall, confirming the payout for their high-level mission. Akihiro takes the bag and drops a sincere thank you for the life-changing fortune. Hardest laughs about how the dire wolf hunt was actually way above their pay grade. He admits it was basically an impossible task for a 7th-ranked team to handle. The officer explains that a local lord recognized Akihiro as a hero who could change the world. Because of that, they are stacking his record with extra achievement points as a special bonus. Sudden rank up, he just got promoted straight to rank 9 on the spot. The group is stoked for him, mentioning that he will finally be able to find some solid teammates. Our boy is a bit confused about the mention of a promotion exam. The officer tells him not to worry because his recent performance gets him a clean pass on the goblin hunt. There is a catch though, since rank 7 and above requires a party of at least 3 people. The officer explains that this is usually the level where everyone starts grouping up for safety. The idea of networking is his worst nightmare because he was a lonely office worker in his past life. He wonders how a socially awkward salaryman is supposed to find a squad in a world like this. He asks how people even find squads in this world, and the officer explains the guild basically acts as a matchmaker. He tells Akihiro that after his recent heroics, he will have plenty of people lining up to join his team. A huge weight lifts off his shoulders knowing he does not have to do the networking himself. He thanks the officer and confirms he is definitely counting on that help. Back with the high-ranked duo, Deed mentions they are sticking around the village for a while. Eri looks around and realizes their pigtail companion Wadis is currently nowhere to be seen. Akihiro points out the flashy new accessory on Eri's wrist. She pulls her hands close to her chest and explains it is an engagement bracelet from Deed. Deed scratches his head with a proud grin while his girl looks away bashfully. He confirms they are officially planning to spend some quality time together during their downtime. Eri gestures as she explains how these bracelets eventually get melted down into wedding rings. Our boy keeps it polite and offers a congrats, even though the engagement talk is way out of his league. He waves his hands in a frantic blur and tells them to just go enjoy their date already. He is moving way too fast toward the exit to even think about the romance stage yet. Our boy is strolling through the village, doing some mental math on the adventurer lifestyle based on what Hardest told him. Hardest breaks down the economy, explaining that rank 8 is for paying bills, while rank 7 is where life actually gets comfortable. Completion fees go up with the rank, but so does the danger. Rank 9 is basically the tutorial level for finding a squad, because soloing wolves or bears is a fast track to the afterlife. He realizes that trying to handle those high-rank requests alone is just not realistic. Building trust was hard enough in a regular office job, and doing it when lives are at stake is a whole different level of stress. He knows finding someone to watch his back is going to be a massive hurdle. Unlike a video game, death here is the real deal. He tells himself he needs to gather a team fast if he wants to keep living in this world. Since he was a manager back on Earth, he decides to put those leadership skills to work and treat team building like an urgent project. Back at the house, Tisha welcomes him home and asks if he is ready for lunch. He thanks her for everything and hands over a heavy bag. Akihiro hands over a heavy bag of coins to cover his rent and medical fees, but the amount catches her off guard. Tisha just shakes her head, realizing he is just as stubborn as her daughter. Back in his room, our boy figures some indoor training is the perfect way to kill time. He knows he should be resting, but sitting still is just not his style. He must have blinked and missed it because he wakes up to find Liz sleeping peacefully right next to him. A wave of déjà vu hits him as he realizes the rest of the family must be home. He tries to wake her up, and she snaps back to reality with a shocked look. With a determined look and sparkling eyes, Liz makes a big announcement. She is not staying behind anymore and is officially joining the adventurer life. Liz drops a major life update declaring her intent to become an adventurer so she never has to watch him struggle from the sidelines again. She is done being the one waiting at home and wants to stay right by his side. Our boy is touched by the sentiment, knowing that finding trustworthy teammates in this world is usually a total nightmare. He thanks her for the support, but he has a massive reality check ready for her. He delivers the verdict straight, telling her that she cannot join him right now. Liz is instantly thrown for a loop, demanding to know the reason for the sudden rejection. He reminds her that she is still technically an apprentice hunter, and he cannot just gamble with the future of the family's only daughter. A serious talk with her parents is the absolute minimum requirement before they even think about teaming up. She is not having any of it. arguing that while she will talk to her dad, she is the one who ultimately decides her own path. Her goal is set on joining his party and heading out together no matter what. He admits that hunting is a respectable path, but emphasizes that she still has a mountain of stuff to learn from her father. The truth is he just does not want to drag her into a world that is way too dangerous for someone without experience. Liz looks him in the eye and asks if he is actually trying to stop her from following her dreams. He matches her energy, explaining that his fear of losing her is just as strong as her desire to keep him safe. Liz appreciates the concern, but she refuses to be sidelined like some fragile doll. She has got the skills to contribute, and our boy can only offer a deadpan response. Becoming an adventurer was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. She is dead serious about joining the grind and has been planning this for a while. The persistence finally wears him down. Hiro agrees to let her try as long as they run it by her parents first. Later that night, the mood shifts. Back at the house, Ast sits in silence, carefully weighing the heavy news his daughter just dropped. The family meeting gets real when Ast asks if Akihiro was the one who planted this idea. Liz instantly jumps to his defense, clarifying that it was her choice, and Hiro actually suggested talking to them first. Waiting around for him to return from danger has become too much to handle. She is done being the one left behind and wants to be part of the action. With her mind made up, Liz declares she is joining the front lines. Ast turns to Akihiro, putting him on the spot for his final verdict. Ast admits he is worried about sending Liz into dangerous places and would rather she stay a local hunter. Our boy chimes in saying he tried to talk her out of it at first too. Hiro explains that he was genuinely shocked by her decision. Quests are a matter of life and death, so he is currently trying to steel his own resolve for the risks ahead. Once this girl locks in on a goal, there is no stopping her. Tisha knows her daughter is a brick wall when she makes up her mind, while Liz just beams with pride. Hiro pivots and tells Ast that having someone he trusts in the party is actually a massive win. Their bond is already rock solid, so they are not exactly starting from zero. Trust is the most important stat for any squad. Hiro makes it clear he is ready to step up and promises to keep Liz safe no matter how bad things get out there. Liz is practically glowing as she hears Hiro back her up like that. She is clearly touched by the vote of confidence while he waits for the final verdict. The old man finally caves with a smile and tells Hiro to look after her. Tisha wonders where her daughter got that stubborn streak from, but Ast admits Liz never backs down once she commits. Liz thanks her dad and vows to do her best as an adventurer. Ast gives his blessing, urging her to keep refining the skills she learned as a hunter. She accepts the advice with a determined nod. Ast gives the official green light since the day was productive. Liz is already humming and planning a guild visit for tomorrow morning, though Hiro thinks she is moving a bit too fast. A system notification confirms she is finally part of the squad. While he is glad to have her on the team, tactical reality sets in for our boy. He has to decide exactly where to place her in the formation based on her unique skills. Her strength stat makes the front line the obvious choice, but putting her in the path of danger feels like a contradiction. He struggles to balance his role as a leader with his promise to protect her. The backline is not a great option either, since her archery is only suited for small animals. She would likely be defenseless if a massive monster managed to get close. He worries that her bones might not handle the physical stress of such massive power. If she is going to be a frontliner, he needs to know if her frame can actually survive high-impact combat. Scholar Sensei explains that her magic reinforces her body to absorb the shock from her own muscles. With that technical concern out of the way, he feels much better about the plan. Akihiro is walking in silence, totally lost in his thoughts. Liz notices he is distracted and asks what is wrong, wanting to know if he has a preferred position for her in the party. She is totally fine with whatever role he picks. He asks if she is an axe user, but she admits she is not picky with her weapons and only carries a small blade for self-defense anyway. He suggests putting her on the front line with a shield and a blunt weapon. She is hyped for the challenge and promises to do her best. The formation is officially locked in. One hurdle down, but the next problem is a classic. They are going to need some serious money to get the squad properly equipped. Blunt weapons are way more cost-effective than bows, but heavy armor costs a fortune. On top of that, our boy realizes he hasn't even finished gathering his own gear yet. The road ahead looks pretty difficult. He thinks a simple goblin hunt is the best way to raise their proficiency, but he wonders if she can even handle one yet. They agree to visit the guild before going weapon shopping. Liz is all smiles, but then mentions there is someone she wants him to meet later today. Akihiro is caught off guard when Liz mentions a potential new recruit for their squad. She is a rank 9 adventurer searching for a party, and Liz thinks she is the perfect fit. Liz explains that this mystery candidate is a childhood friend who has been grinding as an adventurer since she was 10 years old. Even at just 15, she has already built up a serious resume to support her farming family. This news is a weight off his shoulders. Knowing Liz can personally vouch for her character makes the whole networking process feel way less stressful. He is officially sold and asks for an introduction right away. Liz mentions they already agreed to meet up at the guild later today, and the plan is officially locked in. Our boy starts panicking about being late, but Liz tells him there is no need to rush. He realizes his corporate slave instincts are clashing hard with her relaxed, rural sense of time. Curiosity gets the better of him, so he asks what kind of person this friend actually is. Liz laughs and mentions she used to punch anyone who teased her, warning him about her sharp tongue. As they approach the guild, Akihiro starts feeling a bit uneasy about the intense personality he is about to deal with. Suddenly, Liz spots her friend and calls out her name as they reach the entrance. Fia starts things off with a high-energy shout. Liz makes the official introductions, and our girl Fia wastes zero time flexing her rank 9 status. Our boy immediately pegs her as a tomboy. Fia explains her rough speech comes from growing up with nothing but brothers. Fia treats him like family since he is engaged to her bestie. Liz is embarrassed by how loud her friend is being. The fangirl mode is officially activated. Fia is hyped after hearing he wiped out 30 wolves solo. Akihiro tries to stay humble, but she is sold on his skills. Then she drops a bomb. Fia casually offers to be his second wife while Liz has a breakdown in the background. Liz finally loses it and screams at the top of her lungs. This party formation is already heading for disaster. Fia keeps gushing over how Akihiro is a top-tier candidate after his solo win against a high-rank beast. Liz isn't feeling the competition and immediately shuts her down. Fia is totally down to be the second wife, leaving Akihiro to wonder if this world actually allows polygamy. This party formation is getting way more complicated than he expected. He tries to kill the chaos by explaining that his home country only allows one wife. Fia looks like her whole worldview just got shattered by the concept of monogamy. The MC reminds himself that he hasn't even finalized things with Liz yet. Meanwhile, Liz is just happy the threat of a second wife is off the table for now. Shifting gears, Liz proudly reveals her brand new adventurer card. She is officially starting her journey at rank 10. Fia is surprised Liz made the jump from hunter to adventurer. Liz explains that her brother is back home handling the family business, so she is free to travel. The logic is simple. Once they get married, she would have left home anyway. The squad is officially locked in as they finalize their party plans. Fia keeps the teasing going, bringing up old stories about Liz being a total crybaby. Liz is not having it and tries to shut down the memories immediately. They lock in the partnership with a high five, officially becoming a squad. Our boy Akihiro realizes his opinion doesn't really matter here, but he decides to just roll with it. Since nobody has plans for the afternoon, Akihiro suggests a trip to the weapon shop to get everyone geared up. Fia is all for it and leads the way with zero hesitation. Inside the shop, Liz scans the racks for the perfect blunt weapon. She finally spots a massive hammer that looks like it could crush a dragon skull and calls it out. Posing with her new gear, Liz finally starts looking like a real adventurer. Fia is her biggest hype man, gushing over how well the heavy equipment suits her. Akihiro decides to pick up a solid machete for himself while he is at it. He tries to cover the bill for everyone, but Liz is insistent on paying her own way. Fia tries to sneak a freebie onto the tab, but Liz shuts her down instantly. Akihiro steps in and pays for it anyway as a daily thank you, leaving them all set to head back out. Liz is still buzzing from the shopping trip and thanks Hiro for the hookup. He brushes it off like a real one, just happy they found the right tools for the job. Our boy is feeling the dent in his wallet, but that wolf payout was so big he can basically ignore the bill. Before he can enjoy the silence, Fia pops back into the frame with another request. Fia is dying to see some magic in action. They head to a quiet spot on the edge of the village where she usually does her own training. Since nobody ever comes out here, it is the perfect place to let loose. Fia points out a wooden target and asks if she can see him give it a test run. Time for a demo. Akihiro locks in his focus and starts calculating the wind pressure and rotation speed for his signature strike. The spell connects with a heavy impact, making the training ground rattle. He turns back to the girls like he just finished a light jog. Instead of being impressed, Fia looks like she just saw a glitch in the Matrix. She asks if he is a total beginner, leaving Akihiro wondering if he messed something up. Fia breaks it down for him, explaining that his current method is strictly for beginners to get a feel for magic feedback. She calls it something you would learn on day 1 of elementary school. Fia drops some knowledge telling him that intermediate mages actually use a mental simulator. Our boy looks completely lost, wondering if he even heard her correctly. She explains that you basically run a full simulation in your head before pulling the trigger. It is all about having a vivid image of the outcome before the spell even starts. He tries to wrap his head around the concept, comparing it to launching an app in his mind. He decides to give this mental simulator a shot to see if he can level up his game. Akihiro closes his eyes and starts focusing on the mental image of his last chant. Suddenly, a vision of himself standing in a blank white void begins to take shape. The image clicks into place with startling clarity. He is shocked to realize he is looking at himself from a third-person perspective, just like a game screen. He realizes he can even control the camera, zooming in and out at will. The ultra-realistic 3D graphics are a bit too much, and he starts feeling a wave of motion sickness. Experimenting with his new mental space, he realizes his avatar moves perfectly in sync with his actual body. The realism is a bit too much for him, and the high-definition visuals start triggering a serious wave of motion sickness. He pulls up the image of his wind spell and watches as an interactive UI pops up with a floating enter button. It feels like he is navigating a real-life game menu. He hits the trigger, and the spell fires off in the physical world with flawless accuracy. Liz and Fia watch from the sidelines as he confirms the simulation matches reality perfectly. Things get dicey when he tries to reload the memory of that giant slime encounter. A massive warning window flashes across his vision, making him realize just how close he came to a disaster. When he tries to pull up the data on the dire wolves, the system just straight up crashes with a giant error message. He realizes his past battles were way more dangerous than he originally thought. He finally understands why Wadis looked so terrified during their last mission. Seeing the memory of his team's grateful faces makes him realize just how much he actually risked. He drops to a knee as the mental feedback starts hitting like a truck. Getting used to this high-speed simulation is going to be a total grind. Shaken by the mental toll, our boy admits he had no idea he could pull that off. Liz and Fia check on him as he laughs it off, feeling like a beginner despite the major win. Fia leans in, asking where he even learned to use magic like that. Liz mentions it was just Bastia from the general store. Hearing that name sends Fia into a full laughing fit. She reveals the shopkeeper is a dropout who never even made it to middle school. The realization hits him hard. Everything about the man's bizarre teaching style finally makes sense. He thanks Fia for her guidance, and she praises how fast he picks things up. She is clearly happy to see her tips actually made a difference. A chilling thought starts to sink in. Being able to warp reality just by imagining it makes this world terrifyingly dangerous. A system chime confirms his suspicion. Since he has seen high-def 3D graphics, his mental images are on a different level than the flat drawings everyone else uses. Our boy realizes his secret weapon is actually just his gamer brain. Since everyone here thinks in 2D, his high-def 3D imagination gives his magic a massive edge. The system confirms that compared to the locals, his ability to visualize reality is on a whole different level. It really just comes down to a simple difference in world knowledge. He starts to piece it together, realizing that using his past world knowledge to simulate magic is basically a cheat code. This makes him wonder just how broken his power actually is. Looking back at the wolf encounter, the system still throws an error for certain forbidden data. It seems the feedback loop depends entirely on how much the user can actually handle. With their new gear ready to go, Fia suggests they head out to hunt some goblins. Akihiro agrees, noting they still have time and really need to get Liz some experience. As the group moves out, he realizes his to-do list just keeps growing. For now, he decides to focus on figuring out the mechanics of his magic. They arrive at his usual hunting spot, and Fia asks if this is where he does his work. He confirms it, mentioning he usually spends his time here gathering vase grass. Fia reports 2 goblins heading their way, and our boy decides it is the perfect count for a first fight. He orders everyone to stay low so they can catch the monsters by surprise. Akihiro assigns Fia to keep watch for other monsters while he preps the main attack. He tells Liz to sync up her movements and wait for his command to strike. Akihiro tells Liz to take the goblin on the right with a full power hammer strike. While she promises to do her best, he remains ready to jump in with support magic if needed. He uses his unique visualization to lock a magical crosshair onto the target's chest. The intensity of the high-definition simulation is so strong that it starts making him feel motion sick. After a quick adjustment to the compression rate, he confirms that the simulation is perfect. He finally gives the command to attack and signals the start of the execution. Liz charges forward and delivers a heavy overhead slam that catches her target by surprise. The impact is direct and powerful. The blow lands exactly where intended and leaves the goblin reeling. Akihiro can only watch in surprise at how effective her precise strike turned out to be. Liz is not squeamish at all, casually asking which parts she needs to harvest. Akihiro is low-key shocked at how cold she can be when it comes to business. He realizes her hunter background makes her built different. Most rookies would be shaking, but she has that veteran composure after seeing life and death for years. Liz just laughs it off, saying she is just copying her dad's moves. Fia is losing it, impressed that a first-timer is already this cracked at adventuring. The squad keeps the momentum going, wiping out monsters as the day fades. It is becoming clear that Liz has a genuine talent for this life. Back at the guild, it is time to collect. They have racked up a total of 640,000 wall from their successful run of goblin hunting and herb gathering. Holding the bag, he suggests splitting the rewards and setting some aside for a party fund. He wants to keep their finances organized from the jump. The girls immediately agree and officially declare him the leader. He is just left standing there wondering when exactly he got voted into the job. Fia is losing her mind over the loot. Getting 16,000 wall in a single day is way better than her usual solo grind. She gets real for a second, admitting solo adventuring was lonely. Liz just sighs because her best friend has zero planning skills. Fia heads out with a high-energy wave. Akihiro just watches her go, feeling old compared to all that youth. He tells Liz to head home first while he hits up the local church. He claims he is just going to pray for the party's safety. Liz leaves to help with dinner while he walks off toward his real goal. Today is all about dealing with some magic business. He arrives at the church building. There is something important he needs to ask God about. Akihiro steps into the quiet church to seek some divine guidance. He offers a quick bow before settling in to pray. He is really hoping someone upstairs is actually listening to his questions. Things get weird fast when a massive system error pops up in his vision. An unknown connection is forcing its way through and his internal scholar is clearly overwhelmed. A beautiful woman suddenly manifests right in front of him. She finds it funny that he went through the trouble of coming here when a simple prayer would have worked. She introduces herself as Deshia, the goddess of healing. Akihiro can barely focus because of how stunning she is. She gets straight to the point and asks what is bothering him. Our boy gets real and admits he is scared of his own potential. He is worried that his modern knowledge and high-spec magic might accidentally wreck the balance of this world. Deshia just calls him foolish for overthinking things. She explains that any tool can be a weapon and it's the intent of the user that actually matters. To put his mind at ease, she mentions that magic regulations are constantly being updated. If his influence ever gets too strong, the world system will simply revise the rules to compensate. Deshia reassures him that his worries are groundless and offers her trust. Akihiro is touched by her kindness, but the mood shifts when she mentions receiving a message from Electoa. The news of a word from another deity takes him by surprise. She explains that she is bestowing a new skill upon him and gently places a hand on his head. A soft warmth spreads from her touch as she confirms the process is complete. Akihiro feels a strange, comforting heat radiating through him. The goddess drops a bombshell by asking him to deeply cut his own arm to test the skill. She casually mentions that she has suspended his pain senses, while Akihiro recoils in shock. Despite his hesitation, she promises to handle any complications if things go wrong. Drawing his blade, our boy prepares to make the cut. His heart is pounding in his chest, but he realizes with a start that he truly cannot feel any physical sensation. He slices deep into his flesh, sending blood spraying across the room. Deshia looks on with chilling composure, even complimenting him on a cut deep enough to reveal the bone. The sight of his own gore makes his face go pale despite the lack of pain. He starts to panic, shouting that even without the pain, the whole situation is terrifying. Deshia remains calm and holds his arm, telling him everything is fine. She instructs him to focus his visualization on the wound healing itself. Closing his eyes, he concentrates on a clear mental image of his flesh mending. The wound begins to knit back together in stages until his skin is perfectly smooth again. He celebrates the successful test just as a system confirmation window pops up in his vision. The deep cut on his arm vanishes in a flash of light before he can even process the shock. Our boy just witnessed a miracle, and the goddess casually confirms this is what top-tier divine magic looks like. Deshia explains that while most people can patch up a scratch, internal healing usually fails because their mental images are too blurry. Since our MC thinks in 4K, his magic is so precise that the system barely has to do any extra work. Akihiro asks if this high-level magic follows a specific sentence structure like his other spells. She tells him it does, though it is almost never needed when your visualization is this clean. Getting serious for a second, she tells him to stop overthinking simulations if he ever gets into real trouble. In a pinch, he just needs to scream from his soul, and the world will grant his wish regardless of the math. The mood shifts as the goddess prepares to leave, admitting she wanted to hear more stories about Earth. It is time for her to head back, but the connection she established with him is already set in stone. Our guy feels bad for wasting her time since she looks totally exhausted under that calm expression. Deshia just smiles it off, telling him she would never miss a chance to meet up with her favorite interdimensional visitor. She fades out with a wish to meet again when she has more leeway, leaving him standing alone in the quiet church. A system window pops up to confirm the connection is restored, signaling that the divine error has finally been fixed. The system finally confirms it with a formal notice for his new divine attribute control. He just unlocked a tier of power that most people in this world can only dream of. Being the party healer adds a massive layer of security for his team. The pressure is on to keep his mental simulations clean even when the situation is falling apart. Back at the house, our boy makes his entrance after a long day. Tisha greets him with the news that his name is everywhere, advising him to actually take a break for once. Checking in on the dinner progress, he finds Liz almost finished with the prep. The mood is cozy as they wait for the head of the house to return. Liz is not one to waste time and pushes for a quick training session. Akihiro agrees, deciding it is the perfect moment to break out the shield and work on her frontline skills. They get right into the grind with a simple wooden stick acting as the threat. Every random strike he throws is met with a solid block, showing she is already adapting to the new gear. Her precision is on another level as she catches every hit right in the center. All those years of hunting with a bow clearly paid off in the form of some cracked dynamic vision. Akihiro breaks down the meta, explaining that shields are not just for defense. Once she blocks an incoming hit, she needs to follow up with a hammer strike to keep the pressure on. Disrupting an enemy stance or making them drop a weapon opens up a world of possibilities. Liz takes the advice to heart with a quick nod. Later that night, the head of the house finally makes it back. Ast is caught off guard seeing the two of them still grinding out training sessions this late. Liz welcomes her dad home with the news that dinner is already on the table. Akihiro tries to act tough, claiming he is fully recovered even though the old man still worries about his health. During the meal, Tisha is floored by the amount of money they managed to bring home. Akihiro just sits there feeling every bit of his age after a long day of physical training. Even with the big win, the veteran hunter tells them to stay humble and avoid getting cocky. Liz gives a casual reply while her mom just admires how much they have accomplished together. She has way more talent for this life than he ever expected. He can already see her becoming the backbone of the party as they move forward. Akihiro gives Liz her flowers, telling Ast that her goblin takedown was top tier. Liz plays it humble, saying she just copied what she saw her old man do. Our boy notes that her hunter background is a massive asset for the squad. Her dad takes it in, reminding her to stay sharp and never let her guard down. Liz sparkles with energy, vowing to work harder and secure that bag. The night ends with the whole house filled with laughter. Transitioning to the cleanup, Akihiro offers to handle the dishes as a thank you. Tisha immediately shuts it down, insisting that the housework is her territory. He realizes just how much she does, specifically drawing heavy water from the well every single morning. She confirms it is the very first thing on her daily to-do list. Feeling bad for not noticing sooner, he offers to take over the heavy lifting tomorrow. Tisha waves him off, insisting he is doing too much and needs to avoid a total burnout. She stands her ground, telling him adventuring is work enough and he should not stress the house chores. Akihiro just nods, reflecting on how his old corporate grind was way tougher. Back at his room, Akihiro gets to work organizing his mental notes after his wild meeting with the divine. He tests the waters to see if his simulator can turn any random thought into reality. Flying sounds like a dream, but the world is not letting him off the ground just yet. Time for a reality check as he eyes a small scrap of paper on the desk for a low-stakes experiment. Instead of using his usual simulator, he tries to force the magic with nothing but mental imagery. He sets the pressure and shape manually, before finally hitting the execute button. The paper actually hovers in place without any physical help. This success is way too big for a bedroom. He heads outside immediately to test the real limits of his discovery. Our boy locks in his resolve, knowing that the only way to find his true limit is to dive in headfirst. He focuses on the wind surging from his soles and pictures his body drifting upward. Gravity finally takes a back seat as he starts to float. He realizes that letting go of the mental image causes him to drop instantly. Just as he suspected, the magic requires constant focus to stay airborne. Movement is next on the agenda as he tests flying in every direction. Stopping is the tricky part, requiring a quick mental reverse thrust to kill the momentum. Soaring high above the forest canopy, he is hit with a brand new sensation of total freedom. This beats walking any day. The feeling is a lot like skating on thin air. Once he gets used to the speed, he can already see the potential for using this in combat. Back at the house, Liz spots him through the window and calls out his name. She is clearly confused by what he is up to. She heads outside to check on him, mentioning her mom was worried he might collapse from overworking. Our boy is caught completely off guard. Without a word, he scoops her up and takes her for a spin in the sky. Liz can hardly believe her eyes as the ground disappears below them. Bro is becoming Superman now. Akihiro looks her right in the eyes with a confident grin and tells her it is magic. Back on solid ground, Liz is clearly struggling to keep her cool. She admits that being this close to him is a total embarrassment. Liz mentions that flying felt exactly like skating on ice. Our boy looks away while blushing, feeling a bit silly for getting so hyped up at his age. He rubs the back of his head and lets out a sheepish laugh, admitting he still has a lot more practicing to do. Looking down at her boots, Liz calls him amazing. She has noticed all the hard work he puts into leveling up. Liz clenches her fists with a bright smile and vows to train just as hard so she never gets left behind. Akihiro matches her energy with a smile, knowing his magic is still rough but his progress is real. Hand in hand with Liz, our boy realizes that in this different world, he can finally live life on his own terms. The pure excitement of it all has his heart racing. Chapter 13 kicks off with Lizatia absolutely losing it over her first flight experience. She compares the feeling to sliding across ice as she gushes about her late-night date. She tells Fia that they soared higher than their own house while he held her close. Bro is just standing there while the girls discuss his carry potential. The next morning, our boy watches from the sidelines as Lizatia recounts the whole adventure to her parents. She is so hyped that she has been talking their ears off since they woke up. Lizatia describes being carried like a princess, making her heart race. Fia is totally sold and demands a turn in the sky too. That request gets shut down immediately as Lazadia drops a terrifying glare. Fia is completely oblivious to the danger zone she just walked into. Fia pouts about the unfair treatment while Akihiro finally remembers that these girls are only 15. It hits him that in his old world they would still be stuck in middle school. Fia settles for a piggyback instead, but our MC is having a moral crisis. He starts to wonder if it is even right to let kids this young join a life-or-death fight. Liz picks up on the heavy vibe and asks what is wrong. Our boy admits the idea of making two young kids fight is starting to weigh on him. The girls shut that down immediately, reminding him they are officially adults now. Liz is just happy to finally be pulling her own weight financially. Seeing them sync up perfectly proves their deep bond as childhood friends. He agrees to move on, but that guilt is still hanging around in the back of his mind. Next thing you know, he is giving Fia a high-speed tour of the clouds. She is completely sold on the experience, screaming for more speed directly into his ear. The flight ends as soon as they hit the ground. Fia is ready for round 2, but Liz is already there to drag her away with a very clear message. Fia is bored now that the ride is over, while Liz maintains a terrifyingly polite smile. Our boy takes the hint and tries to get everyone focused back on work. Once they are finally alone, the tough act disappears and Liz becomes a blushing mess. She quietly asks for her own turn in the sky next time. Akihiro agrees to the request with a smile. He imagines himself being mobbed by kids for piggybacks, just like a popular teacher. The group heads out to gather herbs and hunt monsters while Lazadia questions the sudden workload. Fia is unusually hyped to earn more money today, which seems a bit suspicious to our boy. They wrap up another profitable day with earnings that match their record. Fia is clearly enjoying the financial success of their new team. Fia decides to hit up the general store for some new accessories. Our boy has other plans and decides to visit the blacksmith instead. Lizadia is immediately sold on the shopping trip and joins Fia. Our MC watches them head off before starting his own errands in the city. Back at the forge, the blacksmith recognizes him and offers a friendly welcome to the shop. He asks to browse the current spear inventory, but admits he also has a unique custom order in mind. The blacksmith pulls out his best inventory and points out a sturdy short spear. He promises this thing is built to last and won't warp even after a lot of action. Our boy picks it up and asks for permission to give it a test swing in the back. The shopkeeper gives him the green light, happy to let him get a feel for the gear. He puts some power into a practice swing, but the weight catches him off guard. It is way heavier than it looks, making him realize that being a spear user is no joke. The 70,000 wall price tag hits him hard. He starts doing the math and realizes this weapon costs about as much as a high-end computer back home in Japan. He tells himself to think of it as a 3-year investment and finally pulls the trigger on the purchase. Once the deal is done, the blacksmith asks about the second custom order he mentioned earlier. He asks for some parchment and a pen to map out his idea. The smith leads him to a private room where he can focus and get his thoughts down on paper. He pulls out his phone to look up some designs for a hand pump. Thinking about the local lifestyle, he realizes that drawing water from a well is some serious manual labor. Drawing water from the well is a daily grind that counts as serious manual labor. For everyone here, the morning starts with a workout just to fill up a tub. Our boy decides to use his phone encyclopedia to look up the design for a modern hand pump. He sketches it all out on parchment, knowing this simple machine would change the game for the locals. He finishes the draft and presents it to the blacksmith. The smith is skeptical at first but is soon lost in thought as he examines the blueprints. The blacksmith is blown away by the simple yet effective structure. He recognizes the mechanics of bellows and levers, realizing the guy standing in front of him is a genius. This invention is far too big to keep under wraps, so the smith wants to present it to the Viscount. It is clear that things are about to get way more complicated than a simple custom order. Akihiro checks if there's such a thing as a patent in this world and gets some good news. Not only can he get exclusive rights, but the project might even catch the attention of the king. Handling production alone would be impossible, so they discuss partnering with a large trading company. Our MC can just focus on the design while letting the pros handle sales and collecting his share of the gold. Ness brags about his connections with the blacksmith guildmaster and promises he won't do Akihiro dirty. Our MC just nods along, hoping the guy is as legit as he sounds. Akihiro takes a moment to scan the vibe, wondering if he can actually trust this enthusiastic blacksmith. He listens as the man mentions his own mother's daily struggle with the well, which hits close to home. The smith laughs and comes clean, admitting he wants to get the pump finished as soon as possible for his own shop. Running a smithy takes a ton of water, and he is eager to ditch the manual labor. Seeing how fired up the man is, Akihiro decides to officially leave the project in his hands. Ness is already planning out the prototype, confident that the simple design will be easy to cast. They seal the deal with a handshake and swap names, with the smith introducing himself as Ness. Akihiro mentions he is currently staying at the hunter's place, making delivery a breeze. Ness gets so overwhelmed with joy that he pulls Akihiro into a massive bear hug, basically adopting him on the spot. He is just glad to have an invention that will finally help his family out. The scene shifts to the town exterior as the sun starts to set on another productive day. Ness isn't wasting any time and gets right to work on the prototype, determined to change the world one pump at a time. Our boy walks off with his prototype, realizing that if his invention goes viral, it could change this world forever. He is just glad he managed to get the first one built. Feeling a bit nervous about the impact, he decides to go straight to the source and calls out to the god. He stops in his tracks as a familiar feeling washes over him, wondering if his latest move is actually going to be a problem. Suddenly, the voice of Electoa rings out, greeting Akihiro like no time has passed at all. The deity is all ears, asking if our boy has a specific question on his mind. Akihiro gets right to the point, admitting he is worried that letting the hand pump loose on the world might mess things up. Electoa tells him to chill because a similar invention was destined to show up soon anyway, so there's zero stress. Our MC is visibly relieved and thanks the busy deity for taking the time to answer his quick tech support call. The conversation takes a weird turn when the god mentions he is currently munching on some potato chips from Earth. He describes the flavor as super spicy strawberry, leaving our boy baffled by the incomprehensible snack choices of his home country. Electoa offers him a taste of the cursed chips, but Akihiro politely passes and keeps walking. He reflects on how Japanese companies really do come up with some of the weirdest stuff imaginable. Fia spots our boy and asks if he has finished his errands. He is surprised to see the girls already heading back from their own shopping trip. Fia shows off a new bracelet with a proud grin. Akihiro thinks it looks good, but then she drops a surprise by handing him one too. They all put on their matching accessories to celebrate the official start of their party. Lizadia loves the vibe, saying it finally makes them feel like a real team. Our MC thanks them for the gift as the idea of having a real squad starts to sink in. Lizadia promises to treasure her bracelet forever. Fia ruins the wholesome moment by reminding Hiro she is still down to be his second wife. Lizadia immediately shuts that down with a shout, leaving our boy ready to just head home before things get even more awkward. We open with the squad out in the woods where Lizadia is absolutely crushing it with her new hammer, dropping 50 goblins like it is nothing. Akihiro is impressed by her accuracy, but she gives all the credit to their new team chemistry. Fia is riding that high, bragging about how they reached their daily quota before lunch even hit. Akihiro smiles along, but he is starting to notice something is a bit off about these numbers. Reaching 20 kills in a single morning used to take all day, and the goblin population is definitely spiking way too fast. Our MC realizes this is not just a lucky streak and something weird is going on in the forest. The girls decide not to overthink it for now, figuring it might just be a temporary glitch in the local ecosystem. They agree to keep an eye on things, but for now they have bigger problems like laundry. Back at the house, the squad surprises Lisadia's mom by coming home way earlier than expected. They show off their massive earnings from the morning hunt before pivoting straight into household chores. Akihiro asks to borrow a water jug to help out, even though Lizadia insists the well is just a short walk away. He wants to be a gentleman and handle the heavy lifting, so he tags along to the water source. Lizadia carries the massive jug like it is a feather, while our boy struggles to even pull a single bucket of water from the well. This dude is getting a reality check on the literal weight of daily life in a fantasy world. Laundry really is hard labor, he mutters while scrubbing away. Doing this by hand makes him miss modern appliances on a deep level. Memories of Ness talking about his mother's struggles come to mind. It is a reminder that this world is stuck in the dark ages. Chores finally wrapped up. He plans to head back to the forge first thing tomorrow to check on his prototype. Back at the shop the next day, Ness is hyped to see him and reports that the project is already off to a great start. The plan is to build a wooden model first to test the mechanics before moving on to a bronze version. That is wonderful, thank you very much, he says. He is relieved to see the professional taking such a methodical approach to the design. This blacksmith works fast and has already looped the guild in to send a researcher. Our boy can barely keep up with his momentum. Ness says he already clued the guild higher-ups in on the project. Our boy is immediately suspicious and asks if these big shots are actually reliable. The blacksmith just laughs and promises to vouch for them personally. He says they are fellow craftsmen, which is enough to make our MC feel a bit better. They agree to schedule a meeting to talk business once there is an opportunity. This seems like a great way to move things forward. Out in the forest, the girls are already waiting. Fia spots him first and calls him out for finally showing up. Fia teases him for being late while he apologizes for the delay. He is shocked to find a huge pile of goblin noses waiting for him as proof of their morning hunt. Lisatia is hyped because they are on a roll today. Our MC can barely believe they already cleared 10 kills in just 1 hour. Fia suddenly realizes something is off and asks if they ran into any other species. Lisatia confirms that it has been nothing but goblins the entire time. Akihiro gets stuck in his head, wondering why the local goblin population is suddenly exploding while everything else stays quiet. His train of thought is interrupted when the girls spot 2 more targets to the northwest and the hunt is back on. After bagging their 61st kill, our boy decides they have done enough for one day and calls for a retreat. Fia is finally feeling the exhaustion and agrees it is better to head home before their luck runs out. Lisa Tia notices her partner acting way too serious and asks what is wrong since he has a scary look on his face. Akihiro admits there is something bothering him and decides he will just ask about it at the guild. They took down 60 goblins in a single afternoon, but Lysadia is starting to realize the scale of the problem. If they found that many so easily, the forest might be crawling with them. Akihiro recognizes the pattern, comparing the goblin spike to an overflow event from his gaming days. While they are just small groups for now, a coordinated attack would be a nightmare. The guild clerk stacks up a massive pile of coins on the counter. 60 goblins worth of work adds up to a clean 120,000 wall payout. Lysatia is stunned while Chibi Fia celebrates their new wealth. Her rank officially jumps to 9, and the guild even waives her exam because she has been crushing so many jobs. Clutching the heavy bag of coins, Lysatia feels like she is in a dream. It has only been a few days since she started, but she is already making a small fortune in a single afternoon. The squad showers her with praise for such a lightning-fast promotion. She stays humble, admitting that none of this feels real yet. Akihiro asks the girls if they are going straight to training next. Since the day is still young, they agree it is too early to head back home. Fia laughs and calls him a total dad as the girls wave goodbye. Our boy takes massive psychic damage from the roast, spiraling into a midlife crisis before a voice snaps him out of it. He tells the girls to head out first, while he handles some guild business. He reminds them to stay safe as they part ways. Akihiro heads back to the guild and runs into the logistics officer, who is already hyped up about the squad's wild results today. The vibe shifts when he notices the officer is low-key clutching a stack of documents like they are high-level secrets. The guy starts explaining how mass-produced paper is slowly taking over the market, though parchment is still the meta for fieldwork. Our boy suddenly remembers this dude as a top-tier guild scout, making him a pro at information gathering and playing dumb. No more games. Akihiro looks him dead in the eye and tells him they need to talk about the goblin situation. The officer expected this and leads him into a private conference room to spill the tea in secret. He drops the receipts, showing that goblin numbers were slowly rising for 10 days before hitting a huge spike out of nowhere. MC scans the documents and sees that the data aligns perfectly with his own calculations. The officer confirms the goblin numbers are spiking, though they still have zero clues about the actual cause. MC confirms the intel right as the officer mentions the high probability of a commander appearing. He is left stunned, just repeating the word as the situation turns much more dangerous. The strategy meeting continues as the officer drops the news that a commander is likely to show up. Akihiro looks up in confusion. What exactly is this commander? It is a straightforward but grim explanation. To put it simply, it is a leader that organizes groups of goblins. These monsters usually roam around alone or in small groups, but when a commander appears, everything changes. Akihiro tries to link this to the current surge in hunting. The officer explains that winter food shortages drive the goblins to raid villages every year. The tactic is simple. They combine their small squads into a large force and launch a coordinated attack on settlements all at once. Since this is an annual problem, our boy leans in. There must be some countermeasures, right? The kingdom is always ready. Every year, the knights are assembled by the kingdom and dispatched to handle the situation. Looking at the data from the past 30 years, everything seems normal on the surface, but a deeper dive reveals a pattern that should not be there. The numbers usually spike right at the end of every year, when the winter raids kick off. However, Akihiro spots a couple of outliers where things started way earlier than they were supposed to. He asks how they handle these early surprises. The officer explains the guild just taps into their reserve funds and handles the defense themselves for a while. The vibes are shifting toward the dangerous side. When he hears that hundreds of goblins could attack at once, he starts to wonder if the local adventurers can even hold the line alone. It is a heavy reality to swallow. People have already died in the past, and sticking to the same old response plan feels like a failure on the kingdom's part. Our boy does the math and realizes the countdown to the next raid has already started. Since the commander is already out there, this attack is coming much sooner than anyone expected. The officer breaks it down and explains the guild has no power over the kingdom's gag orders. Since the messengers are already on the move, the official silence is going to drop any minute. The officer dropped the hammer, confirming that our boy was the only one sharp enough to catch the anomaly early. Realizing he was stuck in a top-secret mess, Akihiro started panicking. Bro thought about making a run for it, but the officer shut that down real quick. Apparently, once the gag order hits, anyone who knows the truth gets flagged at every guild in the kingdom. With no way out and not wanting to be a wanted man, he finally accepted his fate. There was no point in fighting the system if it meant turning the entire guild against him. He decided to lean into the situation and demanded more intel to increase his survival odds. Looking the officer dead in the eye, he asked when the raid was actually going down. The timeline was tighter than he expected, with the officer revealing they only had about a week to prep. Even worse, the scouts were still out, so they wouldn't have a confirmed count until 2 days before the attack. Akihiro sat back and crunched the numbers, worried that the Royal Knights might not even make it in time. Digging for specific intel, he wondered if the commander had special skills or human-level intelligence. The news didn't get any better when the officer explained that these things are physical monsters and can sometimes be immune to magic. Our MC realized he was in deep trouble and decided right then to keep a safe distance from that front line. The guild is pulling out all the stops, offering zero interest gear and a 50% bounty hike to recruit at least 50 frontline fighters. Akihiro asks if there's anything they can do to stop the disaster before it hits. The officer explains that the rest of the adventurers will be on high alert, serving as reserve units and rotating escort shifts for extra security. He asks if he can at least send his oblivious party members away to keep them safe from the coming chaos. Realizing how long he has been gone, he knows he needs to wrap this up before the girls start worrying. The officer gives him the green light to move his party, but there is a major catch. He has to convince them to leave without actually telling them about the secret goblin threat. The pressure is on as he tries to figure out how to trick those two into leaving. One look at their likely reactions, and he knows they would never agree to run away without a fight. Convincing them is going to be a total nightmare. He wraps up the secret meeting and finally heads out to find Hardis waiting for him. He apologizes for the long wait, but the armored warrior is cool about it. Before bouncing, our MC decides to check the chain of command. He asks Hardis who his direct boss is just to be safe. The reveal hits hard when he finds out he was just chatting with the guildmaster. This dude is a major player, and Akihiro is feeling the pressure. They swap some professional greetings for the future. With the meeting officially over, it is finally time to head back. Walking home, he treats the situation like a beginner war lesson for salarymen. He is just praying the goblins stay low intelligence so he does not have to deal with any galaxy brain monsters. He makes it back and apologizes for the delay. Liz acts like everything is fine, but her intuition is already picking up on his nervous energy. Dinner is done and the table is cleared. Our boy knows he cannot keep this a secret, so he pulls Liz aside for a private chat. She sees right through him immediately. He admits there is a situation, but he wants to wait until tomorrow so Fia can hear the news too. Lizatia asks if his worries are about what happened today. He admits he cannot talk about it right now, but promises to explain everything tomorrow morning. She agrees to wait until morning. He thanks her for being patient and apologizes for the weird vibes. Lizatia just beams and tells him that worrying about him is basically her favorite hobby. Our boy is left totally stunned by her support. They trade one last good night before she heads out. He sits alone in the dark, the reality of the situation finally hitting home. He looks back at how far he has come since he was just a trembling mess. Now he is responsible for 2 young girls in a war zone, and the pressure is starting to get to him. He wants them to stay safe and away from the blood, but he knows they would never listen. It is time to stop overthinking and just steel himself for what comes next. Under the cover of night, he realizes there is no time to waste. He needs to get their gear ready for the battlefield before the sun comes up. Fia kicks off the morning with her usual high energy, but the heavy atmosphere between the other two is impossible to ignore. She jumps straight to the conclusion that they had a fight. Lizatia shoots down the idea of a lover's spat in an instant. Fia doesn't buy it for a second, playfully pressing to find out what actually happened. Akihiro decides it is better to move the conversation to a private conference room. Fia nearly blows their cover by shouting about a major announcement, earning a quick shush as they head inside. With the door finally closed, Akihiro drops the casual act. It is time to lay out the heavy news. Akihiro kicks off the meeting by asking the girls if they know about the yearly goblin cycle. Fia mentions the knights usually handle the cleanup before the end of the year. He confirms that is the norm, but warns that this year is different. The outbreak is expected early, meaning the village might have to rely on adventurers for defense. When Fia admits she has never heard of such a thing, Akihiro emphasizes that this is top secret intel. A strict gag order is in place, so they cannot even tell their families. The scale of the threat is insane, with estimates reaching around 400 goblins. Fia is lost trying to visualize a crowd that big. To help her understand, he explains it is basically twice the number of villagers attacking at once. The sheer math of the threat leaves her stunned. She knows individual goblins are weak, but a massive group is a nightmare to handle. The realization of the impending battle starts to sink in. Our boy stays cool, telling them the guild is already on it. The strategy is straightforward. They need to thin out the herd as much as possible before the main force arrives. Fia is hyped because Akihiro secured some interest-free loans from the guild for gear upgrades. Akihiro plays it safe and decides to focus on armor defense, since they do not have time to get used to new weapons before the big raid. The prep talk is cut short as 3 goblins sprint out of the north on a crash course for the party. The squad starts stacking bodies, knocking out 19 goblins in record time as the kill count keeps ticking up. Juggling magic and physical combat is turning out to be a brutal drain on our boy's stamina. He realizes his magic and detection skills have a hard cap of 20 meters, which is a pretty tight radius for a survival situation. It means he has to get dangerously close to the prey just to get his detection skills to trigger. Our boy wants to avoid close combat but lacks the strength to chuck a spear. Lysadia screams a warning as a goblin creeps up from behind, sparking a sudden idea in his head. The monster lunges with a screech. In a flash, he drives the spear straight through its chest. Another one bites the dust. Lysadia checks in on him after the close call while he admits he was caught off guard. The grind is real as Lysadia shows off a sack stuffed to the brim. They hit their 80 goblin quota and decide to call it a day before things get too heavy. Back at the guild, the clerk drops a stack of coins on the counter. The total reward for their hunt hits 240,000 wall, leaving the girls doing the math in their heads. Fia loses it when she hears about the 50% bonus hike. After splitting the loot and party funds, everyone is walking away with 60,000 each. Fia is dancing with her new fortune, but the weight of the coins is a heavy reminder of the danger. Lysadia stays quiet, still processing the grim news from earlier this morning. The group is locked in for tomorrow. Fia thinks the new bracelets are a bit lame, but at least the team energy is high. Akihiro decides it is time to check the gear before they get started. Liz and Fia head out to begin their training. Akihiro stays behind at the forge to handle a personal request. He wants the blacksmith to look over a specific spear modification. The smith looks at the weapon with a puzzled face. Removing the tip seems to ruin the entire point of a spear. He wants to make sure this is really what the customer wants. Safety is the priority for this build. The job will cost 5,000 wall and take a few days to complete. Akihiro hands over the funds to get the work started. Checking the stats shows some solid progress. Most of the skills are going up and nothing has dropped since the last hunt. The grind is definitely paying off for the whole party. Water magic is currently a complete mystery. There are no clear formulas for how to use it in a fight. Yet, finding an expert seems like the best move to unlock its potential. Back at the magic shop to catch up with the instructor, Bastia already heard the news about the dire wolf encounter. He is surprised to see Akihiro has been through so much lately. Bastia is gassing up the MC for his hard work. But the vibe shifts when Akihiro drops the bomb about wanting to learn water magic. The instructor is shook. Akihiro confirms he has the water skill, but Bastia is flabbergasted to find out he only uses it for staying hydrated. Pure water boy energy. The teacher has never even heard of water magic being used for combat. In this world, it is just a portable faucet for thirsty adventurers. Our boy isn't buying it and wants to know the exact spell structure. He is ready to turn this utility into a weapon. Bastia breaks down the logic, listing off the parameters for temperature, quantity, and distance. He admits he can't actually do it himself since he lacks the attribute. Akihiro starts reciting the code for his first attempt, aiming for a small splash right above his hand. Bastia tries to hit the pause button before things get messy. Bastia moves fast and slides a bucket under Akihiro's hand just as the spell activates. A sudden splash of water manifests out of nowhere, but the mess is averted. Bastia suggests weaponizing the temperature difference, thinking boiling water might actually do some damage. Our boy realizes his new magic is basically just a portable sink for now. He is taking what he can get. For a first attempt, just understanding the mechanics is a win. Back at the house, Akihiro runs into Liz's mom, Tizia. She is surprised to find out the duo is actually training separately today. Mama Tizia has that motherly intuition and immediately calls him out for looking like a zombie. He tries to play it off, but she is not buying the fake energy for a second. She lets him know that even though they haven't known each other long, he is already part of the family. He is not allowed to carry the world on his shoulders alone anymore. The words hit home, reminding him of his old life back at the office where people said the exact same thing. Tizia cuts the deep thoughts short with a playful flick to the forehead to snap him out of it. She gives him a warm smile and reminds him that relying on others is part of the deal. The gesture leaves him feeling a bit lighter. Akihiro thanks Tizia for her support, realizing he has been stressing her out lately. She laughs it off and tells him to take it easy on the training. Back at the training field, Akihiro fires off another shot. His magic proficiency is crawling, and the slow progress is starting to frustrate him. He clenches his fist, knowing he needs to level up fast. Panic is not an option, so he focuses on his goal of protecting the people he cares about. Dinner is served. Tisha whipped up some hot soup to take the edge off the chilly weather. The family digs in, with Ass noting how the meat is extra tender this season. Tisha takes a playful jab at Liz, warning her not to overeat like she did when she was a round-faced kid. Akihiro gets a good laugh out of the story, wishing he could have seen her back then. Liz is totally embarrassed and tries to shut it down immediately. Looking at the happy scene, the mental weight Akihiro has been carrying finally starts to ease. The relaxing vibe of the house is exactly what he needed to clear his head. Our boy is out here grinding with a homemade glaive, drilling the fundamentals of defense and attack. He is laser-focused on what he can control right now, making every single rep count. He is basically just copy-pasting moves from his favorite action games. but the results are legit. Sweating through the set, he wishes he had a master to show him some real techniques. Checking his stats, he realizes his stamina is actually starting to level up. He used to gas out in 50 minutes, but now he is pushing past the hour mark like it is nothing. Looking back at his couch potato days, he is feeling pretty good about the glow-up. Turns out, living in a fantasy world is the ultimate gym membership for his physique. Lisa Tia shows up to break his focus with some top-tier support. She has already got the hot water ready back at his room so he can wash off the sweat and recover. She gives him a soft look, reminding him not to run himself into the ground. She wants him to remember they are a party for a reason, and he does not have to carry the whole squad solo. Akihiro realizes he is slipping back into his old solo habits again. He gives a sheepish apology, admitting that trying to handle everything on his own is just a tough habit to kick. Liz hits him with a reality check, reminding him that the squad's safety goes both ways. She lets him know that everyone cares about him, leaving him completely speechless. Our boy stops her right there, saying he has something major to drop. Her heart starts racing as she waits for whatever news he's about to deliver. He hits her with a wholesome smile and thanks her for always having his back. He finally admits that trying to be a solo carry was a huge mistake. Time to change the vibe. He tells her straight up that he wants to rely on her and the rest of the team from now on. He realizes that playing the hero alone is just forcing his own ego on everyone else. Liz is totally locked in as he explains his new mindset. Liz is hyped and vows to stay by his side forever so they can level up as a team. She starts humming a happy tune while our MC tries to process the moment. Today's lesson is all about teamwork. Akihiro sets up a combat drill in the woods to prepare the group for a potential goblin raid on the village. The strategy is simple. He'll act as bait to lure 10 goblins back to the zone so the girls can practice their cleanup skills. Liz and Fia are totally locked in and ready for the mission. Time to move. Akihiro uses his hover magic to zip through the trees, though he admits that maintaining his flight speed is still a bit of a struggle. It doesn't take long to find the first marks. He spots 2 goblins scouting the brush just ahead of him and prepares to engage. Bait taken. The monsters spot him immediately, so he calls them over and starts leading them right back toward the trap. The numbers keep climbing. Seeing 3 more so quickly confirms that the local monster population is definitely exploding. Hold up, something is different here. Instead of just looking for a fight, he catches one of them actually gathering food like it is on a grocery run. Our MC is leading the pack like a pro, counting them off until he has enough for the training drill. He pauses for a second when he spots one goblin acting a bit strange. One little guy breaks formation and starts running the other way. Our boy watches from above, wondering if something else in the woods is actually hunting these things. He takes a moment to process the behavior he is seeing. After a quick observation, he realizes their actions fall into 3 very distinct patterns. It is basically broken down into scouts, food gatherers, and the ones who are just fleeing from a bigger threat. He decides he has enough monsters for the drill and starts heading back. He even catches a few of them fighting among themselves while they follow him. The team is finally back together as he floats into the clearing. He offers a quick apology for the delay while the girls prepare for the incoming wave. No more games. He lands and gives the girls their positions, putting them in the vanguard while he handles the support from the rear. The training session kicks off with Akihiro barking out orders to the girls. He wants them to prioritize defense while a swarm of goblins rushes in to test their limits. Akihiro holds down the rear with his glaive so none of the monsters can sneak up on the girls. He swings with enough force to clear the flank and keep their perimeter secure. Things are looking good for now. He tells the girls to stay focused and prioritize their defense while they whittle down the remaining targets. The vibe shifts instantly when a stray spear catches Lizatia off guard. Akihiro sees it happen in real time and panics as he screams out her name. Lizatia is built different and tries to play it cool. Even with a spearhead buried in her arm, she insists she can still move and keep fighting. Akihiro is losing his cool while the battle continues around them. He sees the spear is still stuck and knows the pain she is hiding has to be unbearable. Fia finally takes down the last monster to end the session. As the dust settles, Akihiro starts to wonder if this training was a bit too early for them. Fia puts the final monster in the dirt, while Akihiro wonders if he cranked the difficulty too high for day 1. Lisa Tia is really going through it after taking that hit, but Akihiro shuts down the injury with a quick burst of divine magic. The wound is gone like it never happened. Liz is not even fazed and reminds him that this kind of grind is just part of the job. Everyone is breathing a sigh of relief. The squad starts heading back while the adrenaline finally wears off. Akihiro realizes a stressed leader is a bad leader. He calls for a strategy shift to focus purely on group coordination from now on. Time to wrap up the hunt. Fia is about to head home but spots a weird detail on one of the targets that needs a closer look. Digging through monster internals is definitely not on the menu for her. Akihiro gives her a pass on the gross work. Lizatia notices something weird while inspecting the loot. Even though these monsters are carrying plenty of food, their own stomachs are empty. Akihiro agrees that this one was likely being chased down by the others. The squad decides to test their theory on the next pack they find. After dropping another target, the results are exactly the same. The math is not adding up for Fia, who wonders why these monsters are starving themselves while stockpiling resources. Lizatia starts connecting the dots, but Akihiro beats her to the punch. It turns out someone at the top is forcing the workers to gather food instead of eating it. A strict hierarchy is forming among the goblin packs. The realization hits hard as he identifies the real problem. There is a commander reigning as a ruler over the local goblins. The scene shifts to the Adventurers Guild, where a high-level meeting is already in progress behind closed doors. Akihiro bursts in late and out of breath, but the guildmaster is surprisingly chill about it and tells him he's right on time. Our boy realizes he almost missed the memo entirely because his squad went straight into the forest for a hunt this morning. Scanning the room, he sees a bunch of veteran party leaders, including one blonde girl who is staring a hole through him. While Akihiro wonders why this person is being so intense, a 7th-rank adventurer named Deed steps up to take the lead. The guildmaster issues a strict gag order on the intel they're about to cover, and everyone in the room agrees to keep it quiet. Then comes the bombshell. The goblins are set to raid the village in exactly 3 days, which is the same time the local knights are expected to arrive. The guildmaster drops a bombshell, admitting they have no idea if the knights will arrive in time to help. This means the village's safety is on the adventurers' shoulders, and with only 4 more parties expected to show up, the situation looks pretty bleak. With just over a dozen individual adventurers ready to answer the call, the numbers are looking thin. Our MC sits there in silence, taking in the full weight of the upcoming mission. Experience makes a huge difference here, as the veteran 8th rank stay calm while the 9th rank rookies look terrified. One girl is already thinking about ditching the village before the fight even starts. Deed steps up and makes it clear that teamwork is the only way they survive this. He is not wasting any time and calls for a full coordination exercise to happen first thing tomorrow morning. Akihiro raises his hand and agrees that the exercise is a must. He introduces himself as a 9th rank and mentions he has already been cooking up a plan based on the intel the guild provided. The room starts buzzing with rumors the second he speaks, because apparently everyone knows him from the direwolf incident. It turns out his herb-gathering hustle made him more of a local legend than he realized. He drops some stats, mentioning he has hunted nearly 300 goblins solo lately. Through all that grinding, he realized that a large-scale raid is a whole different beast compared to his usual ambush tactics. The meeting keeps rolling, and the blonde adventurer seems lost in thought about tactical distance while blushing like crazy. Our boy is sweating under the pressure of an intense stare, wondering if he is being mistaken for someone else. He pushes through the awkwardness and finishes his lecture, stressing that keeping proper distance is vital for surviving as a group. The veterans in the room actually buy what he is selling, agreeing with the logic before he moves on to the plan for tomorrow. Briefing over as the crowd starts to thin out, a sudden shout stops him right in his tracks. The mysterious blonde adventurer from earlier is practically vibrating with energy as they corner him and demand a confirmation. Meet Lot, an 8th rank who has been tracking Akihiro's recent boss kills and is now his self-proclaimed #1 fan. Lot is fangirling hard and says she is hyped to have joined the meeting just to see him in action. She is absolutely losing it over the strategic guidance he dropped earlier. Our boy is definitely confused since he does not even remember giving her any advice. He just stares while wondering why a high-rank pro is acting so weird. Looking at her equipment, he clocks her as a professional scout. He starts thinking about how much value a scout with her skills would bring to his squad. When he asks about her current party, she sparkles with joy while explaining she is a free agent. It is a lucky break for anyone looking to recruit elite talent. He decides to keep it professional for now and wishes her luck before heading out. She responds with a massive fist pump like she just secured the bag. As he walks away, she shouts out that she will be rooting for him. The energy is high as he heads toward his next destination. Later at the forge, he apologizes to the blacksmith for being late and asks if his custom spear is finally ready for pickup. Our MC finally hits up the forge to pick up his custom gear, and Ness really outdid himself on the accuracy. High-quality equipment usually costs a fortune, so he worries the blacksmith is losing money on the deal, but Ness just laughs it off. Testing begins in the woods to prep for a worst-case scenario where a boss goblin has high magic resistance. To counter that threat, he modifies his spear into a jet weapon by filling the hollowed tip with compressed wind magic. Seeing the spear fly confirms the success of his experiment, but now he has the annoying job of chasing it down. Later that night, back at home base, Tisha greets him with some food while noting how late he stayed out. He apologizes for missing the family meal, but Ast is already in the loop about the emergency in the secret meeting. Ast drops a major reveal that he is exempt from the secrecy rules since he leads the village defense. This loophole makes him the perfect person for our MC to trust with the plan. Akihiro explains the whole mess while Ast listens with a heavy silence. It is a relief for the team to finally have everything out in the open. The mood shifts as they realize Lizatia will have to be on the battlefield as well. This is not exactly how Akihiro wanted things to go for his partner. Our MC declares that he will protect her even if it costs him his life. Ast looks away, feeling the weight of a parent sending their child into a dangerous zone. Tisha is not having any of that sacrifice talk and demands they both come back alive. She puts her foot down with an absolute order that neither of them can ignore. Ast agrees that survival is the only thing that matters right now. The duo promises to make it back together as they lock in for the upcoming challenge. The scene cuts to the day of the massive joint training exercise. Fia is already getting warmed up and ready to see how the other parties handle the pressure. The group gathers as the drill begins, with Fia wondering what they are even doing. The objective is to practice team movements synced up with the guild bells and drum sounds. Fia promises to do her best even if she is a bit lost, but a sudden shout catches Akihiro off guard. He recognizes that voice instantly. Lot zooms in with some high-energy encouragement before sprinting off to his position in the rear. Our boy barely has time to remind him that this is just a practice run before the scout is already gone. Fia is not impressed by the weird guy who just zoomed past, but Akihiro is still processing her own chaotic energy. He cannot forget how she literally asked to marry him the very first time they met. Lizatia looks out at the massive crowd, hearing that over 100 people are participating in this exercise. The scale of the coordination is starting to set in. This might be a rehearsal, but the weight of reality is hitting our boy hard. In just 2 days, this training turns into a full-blown war. Deed roars for everyone to take their positions as the training officially kicks off. He makes a bold promise that everyone is coming home, but only if they give it their all. The coordination drill officially kicks off with the ringing of bells. A long signal tells the group to push forward 10 meters at once. Different signals dictate every move, from retreating on a short bell to shifting left on a long drum beat. If the drum hits short, everyone has to pivot right immediately. Chaos erupts as the groups try to sync up, and Lizatia ends up taking a tumble after getting bumped. She winces on the ground as the rhythm of the drill falls apart. Fia is not having it when a rookie goes the wrong way, calling him out for missing the signal. The team tries to play peacemaker, but the frustration of learning a new system is clearly setting in. Akihiro watches the mess unfold with a sigh. He knew their timing would be trashed from the start. Most of these guys have zero experience in group tactics, and it shows. They are adventurers, not soldiers, so turning them into a coordinated unit is a massive headache. Our boy finally understands why schools made him do group gymnastics back on Earth. He feels the importance of those childhood human pyramids deep in his bones. The grind continues for hours until the rhythm finally starts to settle. The squad leader is impressed by how well everyone is following the signals now. Our boy is still stressed because they are way too scattered for his liking. He is caught completely off guard when the leader suggests calling it a day. He stops the group in their tracks, shouting that this rehearsal is basically meaningless. Just walking together in a line is not going to prepare them for the real deal. Akihiro insists they try one specific practical drill that will actually help in a real fight. The others are curious, wondering what kind of training he has planned. He starts organizing the field, telling the defenders to hold their ranks. The rest of the group is left confused when he tells them they are playing the role of the goblins. He tells the mock enemies to grab tree branches and charge with battle cries, even if no real hits land. One adventurer is totally lost, asking what the actual purpose of this roleplay is. Our MC gets intensely serious, asking them if they have ever felt the terror of an armed group rushing toward them. He knows that psychological pressure is the real enemy here. Akihiro explains that the real threat is the psychological strain of a charging mob. Lot is absolutely vibing with the lesson, clapping along while our MC just hopes the point actually landed. A line of 100 volunteers stands ready, playing the part of a goblin horde to make the simulation feel authentic. The mock army surges forward with a roar that shakes the ground. Even knowing it is just a drill, Fia cannot help but tense up as the wall of bodies closes in. Chaos erupts as the adventurers scream through their sprint toward the defensive line. Fia and Lizatia hold their ground, feeling the genuine heat of the mock battle. Once the dust settles, Lizatia admits that the experience was way more intense than she expected. Just the sight of a coordinated group charging is enough to rattle a scout. Deed gives a solid thumbs up, acknowledging that this practical drill is exactly what the guild needs. He orders the groups to swap roles, so everyone gets a taste of the front line. Akihiro breathes a sigh of relief as the leadership backs his play. He is just glad they are finally doing something that might actually keep them alive. The lead instructor wraps things up, telling everyone to use today's drills as their foundation for the coming battle. He officially dismisses the group, praising their hard work. Just as things wind down, the guild officer pulls Akihiro aside for a private chat. Our boy doesn't hesitate, ready to hear whatever intel is coming his way. Lizatia and Fia aren't slowing down either, heading off for some extra coordination drills to sharpen their teamwork. Liz gives a quick wave, promising to see him back at the house once they are finished. Watching them go, the guild officer can't help but admire their endless energy. Akihiro just sighs. feeling every bit of the exhaustion from the day's training session. The officer drops the classic good news and bad news line, so Akihiro asks for the silver lining first. Turns out the main goblin horde has been spotted, but it is growing bigger as it marches straight for the forest entrance. The horde will hit in 2 days, but the bad news is the backup knights won't arrive until noon. It is a race against the clock with the town's safety on the line. Crunching the numbers, Akihiro realizes they might have to hold the line solo for a few hours. If the goblins move fast, the village is going to be in for one long wait. The guild officer explains the plan to keep the news about the late nights a secret for now. He thinks a little white lie is the only way to keep the army from losing hope before the battle even starts. Akihiro understands the logic behind the plan to hide the truth. He knows they just have to give it everything they have got regardless of when the reinforcements show up. Location jump to the forest the next morning where the real training begins. The team cycles through endless combat drills to get their timing down perfectly. After every skirmish, they stop to analyze their mistakes and adjust their strategy. Fia is definitely feeling the heat as she scans the trees. She admits the sheer number of hidden enemies is making it impossible to track them all. Akihiro notices the massive jump in enemy numbers compared to the previous day. He tells the girls they need to eliminate every goblin in sight to reduce the threat level before the main horde hits. With the sun setting, Akihiro finally calls for a break. He tells the girls to prioritize rest so they are not dragging their feet when the invasion starts tomorrow. Akihiro sits alone in his room looking over the gear he prepped for the morning. Tomorrow is the big clash with the goblin horde, and the weight of the situation is finally starting to sink in. He pulls up his stats for a final skill check to see exactly where he stands. He has done all the training he can, so from here on out, his survival depends on the strength of his spear. Even with all the prep work finished, the nerves are hitting hard. He knows he is ready on paper, but the pre-battle anxiety isn't going away easily. A sudden knock at the door breaks his train of thought about all the variables they still don't know. No matter how many problems he anticipates, some things you just can't plan for. Lizatia is standing there in her nightgown, looking hesitant about dropping by so late. She apologizes for the interruption, but says there's something they need to talk about before they sleep. The house is silent under the starry night sky as Akihiro lets her in. Tension fills the room as they sit together, with Lizatia clearly struggling to find the right words. She starts reminiscing about the very first day they met in the woods. Our boy is caught off guard when she brings up the moment he accidentally proposed to her. Akihiro is completely caught off guard by her sudden admission. Lizatia explains that she knew all along his proposal was just a misunderstanding, but she kept the secret to herself. She starts reminiscing about their journey, mentioning how he followed her to the village and never once denied the marriage rumors. All those little moments made her start hoping that maybe they really would end up together. Looking back, she feels like she took advantage of his kindness by bragging to her friend Fia about being engaged. She looks down with a heavy heart, offering a sincere apology for pushing the fantasy so far. Akihiro immediately shuts that down, calling himself an idiot and insisting that he is the one who should be apologizing. He feels like a jerk for letting her feelings carry them this far without being honest. He thinks back to when he first arrived in this world, lost and confused until she stepped in to save him. Without her, he would have been finished before his adventure even started. Turning back to her with a look of honesty, he admits that while the proposal was a surprise, her feelings genuinely made him happy. He is finally laying his cards on the table. The mood gets real as he explains the cultural gap, saying that back in his home world, 15 is still considered a child. Because of those old values, he just could not bring himself to see her as a romantic partner and offers his own apology. Akihiro is rattled when she admits she already knew he saw her as a kid. Lizatia isn't even mad. She just has one more thing to say before the night ends. She looks him in the eyes and drops a heavy confession. "I will always love you." Our boy is left staring in silence. He is lost for words while she keeps going. She knows she is not on his radar yet, but she is betting on the future. He thinks about how unexpected things can always happen, and she proves him right by laying it all on the line. She tells him there is still so much they need to do together, so everyone has to come back alive tomorrow. With her point made, she gives him a quick goodnight and heads out. He is left standing alone in his room, stunned by what just happened. Under the quiet night sky, he realizes just how strong girls can be. All he can do is let out a small laugh. The pre-battle anxiety has been replaced by a heart that won't stop pounding. He tries to stay focused, but that confession is living rent-free in his head. Lizatia starts the day with a bright greeting, trying to keep the vibes high. The family gathers around the breakfast table for one last quiet meal together before things get real. Gear is on and the time for talk is over. Akihiro announces they are heading out, pulling on his gloves as he prepares for the mission ahead. Tishia and Ast watch from the house, sharing their plans to head to the church for safety. The father keeps it short, simply telling them both to be careful. Tishia pulls her daughter into a tight hug and shares a sobering thought about the dangers of a large-scale battle. She then looks at our boy, making sure he knows he is expected to return too. Her advice gets surprisingly blunt. She tells him to prioritize his own life above everything else, even her daughter if he has to. A warm smile returns as she officially welcomes him into the family. Akihiro can only offer a firm, determined yes as he accepts her heavy request. Waving goodbye to the home he has grown to love, the duo finally sets off. He makes a silent vow to return to this house with Lizadia when the job is done. Lizadia hums a tune while Akihiro gets in his feelings. He wonders how she can be so chill right now. On the walk to the battlefield, he asks if she is scared, and she admits she definitely is. She flashes a warm smile. Being by his side makes her happy, regardless of the danger. Standing tall with her gear, waiting back home was the real struggle for her. Our boy is low-key stunned. He realizes she might have more guts than he does. Arrival at the meeting spot. Ari and Wadis are there to welcome them back. Ari drops some heavy news about the roster. Only 8 other mages are showing up for this. Akihiro does the math and realizes their magic power is spread pretty thin. Fia is full of energy as she greets the group, while Ari breaks down why their mage support is so low. It seems most of them head straight for the military after graduating. The guild officer rallies the crowd, explaining that the scouts are already leading the goblin horde and their commander into the trap. It is time for everyone to move out to the designated battlefield. Our boy checks in on Fia to see if her family is holding up, but she admits the pressure is starting to get to her. Even with the familiar faces around, the nerves of the coming fight are real. Fia shakes off the jitters, reminding herself that she and Liz have trained for this plenty of times. Akihiro keeps the vibes high, telling her they just need to do their best like they always do. Deed takes the lead, shouting for everyone to hold the line and protect the village until the knights show up. With the goblins only minutes away, every adventurer scrambles to their assigned post to prepare for the collision. The reality of the situation sets in as the group realizes they have to hold the front for 2 full hours. Everything depends on their ability to stay standing until the reinforcements finally arrive. Akihiro lays out the final plan, positioning himself for rear support, while Liz and Fia take point on the front line. He warns them that the formation will be stiff, but he trusts them to catch anything that tries to slip past. The lookout signals the approach with a shout. The enemy is finally in sight. An ocean of monsters spills over the horizon. The adventurers realize the scouts were way off on the head count. The officer confirms the nightmare. The main mass is over 300 strong, with hundreds more closing in from the sides. Panic starts to set in as the reality of the swarm hits the front line. Our boy realizes the morale is about to snap before the fight even starts. Akihiro tells Liz to stay back while he handles business. He activates his hover magic and launches himself toward the horde at top speed. The rest of the group is stunned to see someone charging out solo. The goblins ahead of him let out a snarl, ready for the first kill of the day. Target locked. Akihiro drops the closest monster with a single command as he initiates his combat sequence. Our boy retreats from the front line after dropping a handful of goblins, deciding it is better to save his energy for the main event. He is confident that merely disabling them is enough for now. As he sprints back toward the defense line, he shouts out a greeting to let his allies know he is safe. The group watches him approach with a mix of relief and anticipation. He reports his progress with a grin, claiming he has already cleared out 10 of the monsters solo. The surrounding adventurers look on in shock at his casual efficiency. Confidence is contagious as he tells them they might finish the job themselves if they keep this pace. His attitude hits the group exactly when they need a boost. The veterans laugh off the pressure and prepare to move out. With a roar of excitement, the frontline warriors finally charge into the fray. Akihiro reunites with Lizadia and Ari, apologizing for the wait as they prepare for the next wave. The girls are fully locked in and ready to follow his lead. A command for long-range support echoes across the battlefield. Archers and mages unleash a coordinated volley to rain destruction down on the approaching horde. The front line turns into a total blender as Lizatia and Fia tear through the goblin ranks. Between Lizatia clearing paths with her shield and Fia skewering monsters, they are not giving an inch of ground. It is a brutal display of teamwork that keeps the swarm at bay. With the immediate area cleared, our boy realizes they are overextending and calls for a tactical retreat. He bellows a command for the entire squad to fall back before the next wave arrives. The girls do not hesitate for a second, immediately trusting his call as they begin their retreat. The first 30 minutes have been a meat grinder with 50 goblins already taken out. It is a solid start, but the clock is still ticking with over an hour of battle left to go. The sheer scale of the approaching horde is enough to make anyone second-guess the odds. Fatigue finally starts hitting the group where it hurts. Between the constant sprinting and the mental weight of facing a swarm, everyone is hitting their limit. Everyone knows they are on borrowed time if they keep up this high-intensity pace. Akihiro pulls his core team together to check the vibes. He admits they are okay for now, but warns that the danger is about to spike as the next wave looms. Liz takes a second to process the situation as the weight of the coming battle sinks in. The horizon fills with green once again before they can even catch their breath. Our boy stares down the massive fresh group with a grim realization. He wonders if the squad actually has enough in the tank to survive another round. Akihiro eyes the massive main force in the distance, spotting a commander type buried deep in the horde. Before he can deal with that, he has to survive the 200 goblins sprinting straight for his position. Liz locks in and orders the squad to focus on defense right before impact. Fia backs her up, shouting for everyone to keep their footing against the green wave's momentum. The collision is brutal as the shield wall meets the charging swarm. Our boy dives into the chaos, supporting the front line as steel meets bone in a total meat grinder. Liz and Fia fall into a deadly rhythm, weaving in for quick strikes before backing off to reset. Their coordination is keeping the center from buckling under the constant pressure. Realizing they cannot kill them all fast enough, Akihiro shifts to crippling magic. He starts blasting the legs out from under any goblin that tries to slip through the gaps. The weight of the swarm is becoming too much, and even Akihiro is starting to run out of breath. The first cries of pain echo out as the frontline adventurers begin to take serious damage. Panic sets in as the low-rank parties start dropping like flies. Seeing veterans being carried off the field, our boy realizes their formation is about to reach its breaking point. The front line is officially a revolving door. Troops are diving into the meat grinder while their wounded buddies get dragged back to safety. It isn't just the fighters hitting a wall. The mages are looking ghost white from mana drain, and Akihiro can tell they are about to redline. Combat has been non-stop for an hour, and the hit-and-run plan is falling apart. Lysadia is putting in work, but the swarm just fills the gaps and keeps pushing. The commander isn't letting up and orders the line to hold until the knights show up. He calls for one final surge before a tactical retreat to regroup. The squad throws everything they have into one last push to drive the green wave back. Once they have a second to breathe, the order to fall back goes out. They manage to drop 100 goblins, but the vibe is still heavy. Akihiro looks over the carnage and realizes the real fight hasn't even started. The actual nightmare is finally here as the massive main force shows up on the horizon. They have zero intel on the commander type leading them, so they can't afford to slip up. Akihiro keeps it real, telling the girls to stop worrying about the win and focus on staying alive. Liz and Fia are clearly hitting their limit, but they do not have time to rest before someone starts screaming for our boy. Out of nowhere, Lot comes charging in with a squad of reinforcements. She is hyped that Akihiro actually remembered her name and wasted no time getting to the point. She officially declares that she is joining his unit and expects to take orders directly from him. It is a bold move in the middle of a war zone, but her eyes show she is dead serious about it. Akihiro is a bit thrown off by the sudden promotion to commander, but he is not in a position to turn down extra hands. Lot guarantees she can handle herself in a scrap, so he decides to put her to work. He gives her a simple job of holding the line, and she accepts with a terrifying amount of enthusiasm. For her, the leader's word is law, and she is ready to see it through to the end. There is zero time for a proper intro as the girls quickly trade names with their new teammate. Their vibe check is cut short by a scout, screaming that the main enemy force is finally on their doorstep. The order to focus on defense goes out as the reality of the situation sets in. This is the big one, and they have to hold the line no matter what. The commander rallies the squad for a final stand, screaming that they just need to survive this last push. The adventurers find their second wind and roar back, ready to finish the job. Our boy checks in to see if the girls can keep up, but they are not showing any signs of cracking. Fia and Lot are completely locked in and ready to see this through to the end. Lysadia flashes a confident smile and declares she is giving it everything she has. There is zero fear left in her eyes as she prepares for the worst. The vibe shifts instantly as a scout screams that the enemy is finally here. Everyone grits their teeth and prepares to dive headfirst into the chaos. The goblin horde slams into the defensive line like a green tidal wave. Akihiro and the girls stand their ground as the first wave of monsters tries to overwhelm them. The physical pressure of the swarm is intense enough to buckle their shields. Just as the girls start to struggle, Lot leaps into the fray and starts carving through the crowd. Lot is a total whirlwind of death, precisely slicing through throats before the monsters can even react. Even Akihiro is caught off guard by these elite combat skills as the scout exceeds every expectation. The intensity spikes as the monsters suddenly double their efforts. The defensive line begins to buckle under the sheer weight of the push. A system window reveals a nasty surprise that definitely was not in the scout report. These things are using a high-level minion enhancement skill to buff their stats. The squad is fighting for their lives as the goblins go into a frenzy. Lysadia and the others are forced into a desperate scramble just to stay upright. Our boy is out of time and options with no room to cast his heavy hitter spells. The entire front line is seconds away from a collapse as the pressure reaches a limit. Just when things look hopeless, the heavy cavalry finally makes their entrance. The reinforcement knights charge onto the field and immediately start their sweep. This influx of professional help gives the exhausted adventurers a much-needed second wind. They rally together and start driving the monsters back into the dirt. Akihiro and the girls watch as the situation finally shifts in their favor. A command to retreat rings out across the field, marking the end of the enemy charge. The reinforcement knights slam into the goblin horde with enough force to turn the tide in seconds. These monsters never stood a chance against a coordinated heavy cavalry charge. As the dust settles, Lazadia leans over and asks if they actually won. The girls are gasping for air, their stamina bars completely drained from the intense fight. Akihiro keeps his back to them, staring out at the battlefield with a look of pure dread. He tells the squad to keep their guard up because his danger sense is screaming. Our boy knows that being overconfident is the fastest way to get a game over. He reminds everyone that the moment they think they won is when they are the most vulnerable. Fia looks back with a frown, noting that they are basically the only ones who can still move. The rest of the defense force is already slumped on the ground. It is a grim sight as Akihiro scans the field and sees his allies collapsing from exhaustion. If a second wave hits right now, they are sitting ducks with zero backup. Suddenly, Wadi senses a massive spike in mana coming from the enemy center. A high-level presence is charging through the ranks, and the vibe just turned lethal. Akihiro zeroes in on the source of the intense mana spike, a commander type. A powerful goblin vaults over its own troops and sticks a heavy landing in the dirt. This monster is built for war, and its presence alone changes the atmosphere. A strange red light starts pulsing off its body like a rhythmic heartbeat. Akihiro has never seen a goblin with this kind of pressure. It lets out a lethal snarl as the killing intent peaks. Akihiro spots the boss looming in the distance. The commander lets out a blood-curdling roar as it prepares for combat. Our boy realizes his analysis skill won't work from this far away. Behind him, the rest of the adventurers are barely holding it together from total exhaustion. He considers letting the Night Order take care of this threat, but he decides he needs to gather some intel of his own first. Akihiro commands his squad to hold their defensive position and keep their guard up. Deed shouts a frantic warning from the side, telling him to be extremely careful. Akihiro decides to head out for a quick look while his team stays ready to move at a moment's notice. He hits a full sprint and charges toward the enemy. Getting closer to the action, he notices something weird about the monster's gear. The commander is swinging a massive blade with enough force to kick up a shockwave. He realizes the monster is wielding a stolen cavalry sword that is way too big for a normal goblin to handle. MC eyes the massive blade, realizing it likely came from the fallen knights. One clean hit with that kind of force would shatter bone instantly. His analysis skill reveals the monster has a high-level spell resistance buff. The deeper he looks, the more the data starts glitching out into unreadable symbols. Recognition is failing to get a clear read on this thing. Our boy realizes he might be dealing with some kind of broken anomaly. The goblin lunges with a horizontal slash. He barely manages to throw himself backward as the steel whistles through the air. He tries to lock on for a counterattack, but the monster is on another level. This dude is moving way faster than anything he has faced before. He points and commands his spell to execute. His heart sinks when the magic fizzles out, confirming that this beast is immune to direct attacks. With no other choice, he activates hover acceleration to put some distance between them. He zips through the sky just as the commander crashes into his previous position. Akihiro figures he can kite this thing to buy a bit more time. He is barely done thinking it when the beast lunges with a massive mace strike. The monster is moving with insane burst speed that makes no sense for a goblin. Our boy can barely keep track of the movement. Things go from bad to worse when the main horde starts splitting off. They realize the adventurers are an easier target than the heavy knights. The plan is to have Liz and Fia tank the hit while he sets up a counter. He just needs them to survive long enough for him to pull out his new weapon. He kicks his hover acceleration into overdrive to reposition. There is no way to know if this works, but he has to put his life in their hands. The girls brace for impact as the commander closes the gap with terrifying momentum. Akihiro shouts for them to hold firm for just one moment. The beast is on them before they can even blink. Our boy watches in horror, realizing the monster is even faster than his calculations predicted. Liz charges forward with her shield raised. Seeing her take point alone sends a spike of panic through Akihiro. He knows she cannot handle this beast by herself. A single heavy impact shatters her defense. Her shield is ripped away as she is tossed aside like a rag doll. Our boy can only watch in disbelief as the gap in power becomes brutally clear. She hits the dirt with a sickening thud. Akihiro screams her name, his voice cracking as the rest of the unit watches the disaster unfold. The sight of her motionless body and the blood on the ground is a nightmare come to life. He stammers her name, completely paralyzed by the sight of his partner broken on the field. The monster laughs, relishing the carnage it just caused. Blood splatters the ground as Akihiro's desperate cry for Liz echoes across the battlefield. Shadows fall over his face as the weight of the moment crushes him. He blames himself for losing his cool when it mattered most, realizing his mistake might have cost everything. His mind is a storm of frantic thoughts. The only thing that matters now is getting to her and making sure she is still breathing. He has to find a way to fix this. Our boy locks in with determination. He knows he has to end this war right here and now. With his target in sight, the vibe is clear. He is going to kill this guy. He starts stacking non-attribute formulas, defining the pressure and fixing it behind the spear point. As he prepares to release the blast, a serious error pops up. The system is attempting to access a restricted exception domain. Access is granted, and the download finishes instantly. His internal skills are starting to speak up. A notification confirms that the conditions for a new skill have been met. Just in time, a temporary skill is granted. He is ready to pull the trigger. Akihiro lets out a roar as he gives the order to execute, launching a spear of wind that levels the terrain. The goblin commander is swallowed by the blinding light of the impact. A violent shockwave ripples through the battlefield as the dust starts to rise. Akihiro skids across the ground as he tries to recover his footing. Fia watches the crater and asks if the job is done, but Lizadia is not ready to celebrate. She keeps her focus on the center of the blast, waiting to see if anything is still breathing. The massive shockwave finally settled, leaving Akihiro gasping for air in the middle of a fresh crater. Right there in the debris lay the commander, dead as a doornail with a giant hole blown straight through its chest. Not taking any chances, our boy stepped up and delivered a clean finishing blow to make it official. The entire battlefield went silent as the dust settled, with everyone staring at the remains of the monster. Raising the trophy high for everyone to see, he let out a triumphant shout. "I have taken the commander head." A system notification popped up to confirm that the glitched data was officially uninstalled from the world. Without their boss to lead them, the rest of the goblins were left looking like lost puppies. The adventurers finally let out a roar of victory. "We did it, the commander is down." The energy on the battlefield completely shifts as everyone realizes the commander is actually dead. Hardis and Fia are losing it, and Lot is so happy she is basically a puddle. No time for victory laps yet. Hardis orders a final push to pin the remaining goblins against the incoming knights. The whole squad charges in to wrap this up. Our boy is gasping for air while his system starts downloading some massive new buffs from the boss. But stats do not matter right now. His only focus is finding where Liz landed. Reality hits hard when they find her. Liz is unconscious with a broken arm and blood on her face. The team crowds around as Akihiro begins a frantic medical check. Her shield saved her from getting sliced, but the impact was still brutal. He is worried the knockout means a serious concussion. He is checking for internal injuries, specifically worrying about her ribs. The plan is to wait for her to wake up before doing any major healing. Her eyes finally blink open. Liz is barely conscious and wondering how she is still alive while the crew rushes over to celebrate her waking up. Our boy finally catches up to Liz, dropping everything to make sure she is actually okay. He is so overwhelmed with relief that he can only think about the fact that she survived. Liz catches him in a moment of vulnerability, realizing the ice-cold leader was actually terrified of losing her. Seeing him shake like that tells her everything she needs to know. The mood shifts fast as he goes from worried to full-on lecture mode. He grills her for the reckless stunt, making it clear that his heart almost stopped when she threw herself into danger. She checks in on the status of the squad, and he confirms the commander is officially history. With the boss dead and the team safe, the weight of the battle finally starts to lift. Leaning in, she explains that it was never about a death wish. She just had unwavering certainty that he would pull through no matter what happened. The only goal on her mind was making sure they could all walk home as a team. That kind of ride or die loyalty is what kept her moving. He holds her hands and drops the most sincere thank you, giving her the MVP title for the win. The sudden praise hits her like a truck, leaving her stunned. Lot tackle hugs Akihiro with pure chaos energy, celebrating the fact that they actually survived. Our boy is trembling from the mental strain and begs her to stop shaking him before his brain melts. Adrenaline finally wears off and the massive recoil of that magic hits him like a freight train. He realizes that using spells of that scale comes with a heavy burden his body was not ready to pay. Deed breaks down the battlefield status, explaining that the knights are currently mopping up the remaining goblins. With the commander dead, the monsters are in a full-on panic and have zero chance of escaping. Watching the cavalry finish the job, Akihiro finally lets the reality of the victory sink in. His only real goal was keeping everyone safe, and seeing the squad standing tall is the only reward he cares about. Walking over to him, Lizadia softly suggests that they finally head back together. The rest of the crew smiles from a distance, giving them a moment of peace after the nightmare they just survived. Her brightest smile leads the way as she reaches out her hand to take him back. It is finally time to leave the battlefield behind and go back to the place they call home. That's it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, comment Weifu so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.